all stand for the pledge, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Jim, could I have the, Jim, may I have that list? First of all, I'd like to point out that Rick Whalen isn't here tonight, and his associate, Andrew Strong, is sitting in for him. Okay. Public portion, Gary Cobb. Podium, please.
How's that working? How y'all doing?
How you doing?
I wanted to ask a few questions in the hope of gaining a little clarity for myself and others in regards to this board's authority as it relates to the LWRP. I read as much as I could get my hands on the original copy, and then discussion subsequent to that that said changes had been recommended. I'd like to know where, as far as the LWRP is concerned, and jurisdiction of the bottomlands, and the reason I'm asking is the implications that might have for the proposed Deepwater Wind project, as they propose to drag a cable down the length of Gardner's Bay and across Fresh Pond Beach. Has this board taken a position, and what is the authority of this board in regards to that? Will the application process have to go through this board, or looking for some clarification? Anybody can, I know you're very familiar with the LWRP.
I looked at the location they decided to bring the cable ashore, and it appears to me that it was carefully crafted to stay out of trustee jurisdiction. Now, we'd have to speak to council about that, but it comes up to a bulkhead on a road end, which I think was done on purpose, because it.
You think?
Yeah, I think. But a bulkhead, I mean, we want to, speak with our council as to whether we have jurisdiction there or not. But it comes, you're talking about, one of the locations is Fresh Pond, the end of.
Correct.
Fresh Pond.
And the other at Bob,
At the
down at
bulkhead.
the state property.
Yeah, at the bulkhead. The state property is east of our jurisdiction. That's out in Montauk.
That's in the Montauk section.
No jurisdiction there.
Correct.
At all.
This is at the old fish.
The old fish factory, yeah, the old fish farm. The second location they proposed putting it ashore is at the end of Fresh Pond Road, but it has a bulkhead, and then it's a road. So I'm sure their argument would be that we don't have any jurisdiction past the bulkhead. Now, I'm not agreeing with that. I'm just.
There's no beach
That's-
proper
Yes, there is.
shoreward of that bulkhead?
Yeah,
So I guess it hasn't been defined yet.
it hasn't been defined yet, but if they put it to the east, the trustee jurisdiction line stops roughly along the east side of the Peak Harbor.
So even if the board did not have, even if it was determined that this board did not have jurisdiction of that particular landing of a transmission cable, you do have input to the town board in that regard.
And the LWRP, years.
Yes.
Right? But it's a living document.
Yes,
And it changes
yes.
a little bit here and there.
Well, when it comes to consistency review with the LWRP versus the coastal management plan versus the Peconic Estuary program, all of those documents and those agencies that are required for consistency,
Yes.
the lead agency, I would assume, the ultimate responsibility would lay within the town of East Hampton, because that's where they're going to land it, I would think.
I can just advise you that when the town was ready to adopt the LWRP, it was very specifically added that no portion of it would be, would infringe into trustees' jurisdiction.
Yes, I actually have that quote here with me. I just wanted to make sure that it was still valid.
yeah, as far as I know.
And it hasn't been,
No, the document, the document is adopted by the state, has not been changed.
so it's the same, that
It's been ignored.
nothing in the LWRP,
It hasn't been changed.
Many of the coastal portions of the LWRP were not adopted by the state.
Yeah.
because, I mean, I'm sure you're all aware of the implications of that cable. I'm particularly aware because electromagnetic induction was a large part of my career when I worked on aircraft. So I know that, I'm interested in that science, and I'm aware that it could be a huge problem, especially for inshore fisheries, for the fixed gear segment of the fishery.
I think it extends beyond that.
It does.
I'm actually kind of glad you came here tonight, because I was the one that put this on our agenda tonight, because we're reading a lot about deep water, okay? And unfortunately, our town board seems to have embraced this with open arms. And subsequent to that position, I think there's stuff coming out about this project that certainly should be carefully considered, evaluated, before anybody jumps aboard this, from everything from an environmental standpoint to an economic standpoint, okay? As the project is proposed right now, I think Mr. Cobb has pretty clearly explained, the proposal right now is for the second phase of this project, for the windmills to be placed at an area known as Cox's Ledge. Okay, that area has always been a prime cod fishing area.
It's like a legendary cod fishing area
Yes.
for hundreds of years.
Legendary, okay? We're gonna place these windmills smack dab on top of probably the most important bottomland for both sport fishing and for commercial fishing, without any consideration as to the consequence of that, okay? Then we're gonna run a cable, okay, from that point down the north side to either, whether it goes to a fresh pond or whether it goes to the old promised land is somewhat immaterial. The fact of the matter is you're gonna have to plow in this transmission cable, which I spent a little time and did some research on this. There's, because hell, there've been, windmills have been used in Europe for quite a while. They're pretty commonplace. And it's one of those things I found kind of trying to look for things on this side of the ocean. Well, we haven't done that much of this stuff. But University of Stirling in England produced a paper in 2015 where they pointed to the negative impacts on juvenile cod, oddly enough, with respect to these transmission cables. I think PSE&G and Deepwater have peddled this that, well, the cables have no significant impact on marine life. It's true if we're talking about communication cables, which is, I think, what most research has been done on. But this is a completely different deal. It's going to impact navigation communication. It's certainly not going to have a positive impact on our offshore marine environment. I can't imagine it is going to have a good impact on our inshore marine environment. And one of the things that I've personally found a little bit troubling is over the past week, I've gotten calls from everywhere from the Cooperative Extension to several fishermen about the position that this board would be taking, or if we had a position on this, simply because of the verbal activity of one member of this board. Okay, and I think perhaps that may be part of the reason you're here tonight.
That could well be. I was engaged in a conversation
Okay.
as well, so that's part of it, yes.
All right. So, guys, to me, the fishing community has gone hand in hand with the trustees for the last 100+ years. And I certainly would not want to abandon them at this point. And I personally feel that any position we take either should be neutral or should be 100% behind our fishing community, unless something can be shown otherwise.
Not only that, I would think that as trustees of bottomlands that are in this board's jurisdiction, you know, take this maybe not off the table. If not for the fishermen, for the fish, for the fishery, for what jet plowing is going to do to the bottom of Gardner's Bay, and the proximity of these transmission lines to not just significant coastal fish and wildlife habitat, but essential fish habitat. In the Peconic Estuary Plan, it's all pretty much the same areas, and they address the same things, but they use different acronyms. In the Peconic Estuary Program, I believe they call it critical natural resource areas. But there's about 5 of them that go from Montauk Point Shoal, where this cable's going to come around the bend, to the mouth of Lake Montauk, to the mouth of Napeague, Culloden Point itself. The possible impacts of jet plowing that bottomland and then installing transmission lines in it, and effectively, or not, because they really don't know, creating a dog fence, if you will, below the bottom, that could affect migration patterns of fish species that our local baymen have depended on for the last 300 years for their livelihood,
Or the lobsters.
and the lobster fishery as well. Al's not here tonight, but there's been a lot of discussion in the local fishing community, which I've been involved with as well, and they're looking for who's with them and who's not on a lot of levels. And I'm glad that I brought this here tonight. I'm glad Jim's already on board. I wouldn't have expected anything less, but at least the conversation's been started, and I hope it continues, and I hope you take a position that supports our fishery.
Yeah, I think this board definitely needs more information on the end-all, where they're gonna place this thing, and then an ability to comment on how it is gonna impact our constituents and our waterways. Because everything I've looked at so far too, being approached by some baymen, the environmental groups are not in favor of this. Politicians,
Cox's Ledge
big
just,
difference.
Steve,
Oh, gotta go to
Steve, can you
the
come up to the podium?
Yeah.
Steve, sorry. They won't hear you otherwise.
Well, I can see one reason why the environmental.
Steve, can you just identify yourself?
Excuse me?
Can you just identify?
Steve Gauger, local fisherman. One of the reasons the environmental groups are against it is because they know for a fact those windmills are going to kill thousands of birds every year. And, you know, the federal government's given priority to the windmills. They have an exemption. They've also given them permits to when they do, I guess it's sonar testing or sonic testing to test the bottom to where they're going to put their footings in. They know that that throws off all the mammals' sonar. And I don't know what the figure is, but I'm sure they have a permit for that to kill thousands of mammals also. Because when they were talking about doing sonic testing out there for oil exploration, the permits were in the thousands, if not tens of thousands of mammals that they were going to allow them to kill with the permits. That's just to test the bottom. That's before they put anything out there. And another note is that this company's never built windmills before. I mean, they should at least wait and see what it costs those people in Rhode Island for electricity. And then you have a line loss from when it comes in. I don't know how much that will be, but if they go any further than 30 miles, it's not going to be feasible at all economically because the line loss is going to be so great. And I can tell you when I was in Canada, it's probably about 6 years ago, the southern tier, all the farms have windmills on them. And there was a front page article, and I brought it to the attention of the receptionist at the motel, and she said they were gonna start taking them down because the maintenance on them was more than what the people could afford, even with the government subsidy. So now you're talking about maintaining something that's 30 miles out in the ocean. You know, so it's not gonna be like Lilco. I think they said it was gonna add $3.67 to the average customer bill. That was in the Newsday, I think it was. It's probably gonna be like $367 a month.
Well,
You know, it's gonna be
the
expensive.
deal, just so we all know, the deal.
Well, the deal is they're guaranteed for
If
every
we're gonna go
watt
on
of
the
power. that they
economic side of
produce.
this, the deal is, Deepwater is guaranteed 30 cents a megawatt, okay? That's what they're guaranteed, okay? And who pays that? All of the ratepayers on Long Island pay that. Not only are they guaranteed 30 cents a megawatt, they are guaranteed that we have to buy every single bit of electricity that those windmills produce. Fortunately, they're not going to produce as much as we'd all like to think they're going to produce, which makes it a little better. But this is the other screwed up thing. Okay, this is, they're also guaranteed a 3.5 cent a year increase per megawatt that the windmills produce for the next 20 years. So irregardless of whether oil prices stay flat, which they have been the last few years, we're guaranteed that they are guaranteed the annual increases every year for the next 20 years. And you know what there's no explanation about is exactly what your man referred to, is if these things, let's say, become an issue with maintenance, there is absolutely no discussion as to who is responsible for the decommissioning of this mess. It's a nice deal if you're a politician that's turned private industry, which is basically what Deepwater is. It's a lousy deal if you're a fisherman. It's a lousy deal if you're living on a fixed income. And I'm kind of glad you're here, because part of the reason, Tyler, that this is up on the table tonight was the lecture that you proceeded to give the commercial fishing industry over the past week on Facebook. Because if you thought
That's
that
not
it
true.
fell
We had a good
on,
discussion
if you
about it.
thought it fell on deaf ears, it did not, okay? Because
Great.
what it did do is it incited a discussion.
Yeah, which is very helpful, and I'm very glad.
About this board.
But I'm curious how, what we can do. I mean, we can maybe influence where the batteries are placed,
Well-
or where the lines come in, but beyond that, I mean, there's nothing really that involves the trustees in this issue as a town.
It doesn't involve the
town issue, it's a
trustees.
county
It
issue,
doesn't
state
involve
issue.
the trustees.
Comment how
But
it
you know,
impacts.
but you know what point I
Yeah, it
would like
impacts-
to
it
make?
impacts
You know
us,
what, you know what
sure,
point I would like to make here? Okay, this governing body is elected by the people
And I
of
sure
this
did not
town.
lecture fishermen about it. I had a great point that I was making that was missed by some people, and people took it the wrong way, and that's fine. But,
Okay.
we talked to a lot of people about
Okay.
it, and we had a great discussion. So
Comment
good
that I
stuff
would
came out of
like
it,
to make
so
is this board was elected by
I'd
the
like to know
people
how
of
we
this
can
community
help people and figure
to
it out.
deal with the issues concerning the beaches and bottomlands, okay? And before we took a position that could possibly be antagonistic to our local fishing interests, I would hope that each and every one of us would think twice before we did that. Because quite frankly, the impression that was given by the several phone calls that I got was the trustees as a board had adopted this position.
I don't know how anyone else feels,
We haven't even
feels about
discussed
it on the
it.
board, really.
Okay,
Yeah,
we
really talked
haven't.
about it, so, I don't know. I think it's a good, it's a good step forward in the world, and I'm glad that we're part of it out
I
here.
think it's one.
I think there's a lot of
Your
precautions
enti-
to
your-
take and a lot of things to consider.
Your position is certainly, you're entitled to your position. Unfortunately, I think it's a rather naive
It's okay. I don't agree on everything,
and
Jim.
myopic position.
Okay. Well, thanks. Anyone else have a position on this thing? Or I just really want to get to maybe, why we're talking about it here and what we can do. How we can,
I-
I look forward to learning more about it,
Yeah.
to be honest with
I would encourage everybody
Yeah.
here
Yes.
to truly learn more about it, and not just learn about it from from the PR takes that PSE&G has put out, that our local state government unfortunately has put out, and that Deepwater has put out. Because the one thing that has been effective on this thing is they have had a very effective PR campaign that unfortunately, on a little closer examination, the only thing I can compare it to is I heard the exact same rhetoric, and so did you, we all heard it. Anybody that's over the age of 55 heard it back in the 70s when Shoreline was gonna come online. We were told it was green, we were told it was gonna be cheap, and we were told it was gonna be good for all of us. And
Jim, do you have any documentation on the project, or?
I got about 8 pounds. You want it?
You can send it over.
And does it go to a referendum, Jim?
No.
Where we vote on it?
Hey, Brian, unfortunately.
That's why it's silly to have this discussion. It's already gonna happen. It's already happening.
So much of
It's already being
this
built.
has been done
I mean,
very subtly, behind closed doors, and you know what?
Yeah,
It's
that is
very
unfortunate.
easy.
That's definitely
If you-
unfortunate.
If you ask anybody, if you ask me, what do you think renewable energy is a good thing? Yeah, I'm gonna say renewable energy is a good
Right.
thing. But you know what? Then you gotta ask the next question. Well, what renewable energy are we talking about? And what's the cost versus benefits evaluation? What's the impacts that this is gonna have on other industries?
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, I personally would not wanna see a windmill replace a cod fishery. I wouldn't wanna see a windmill.
Of course not.
Replace our inshore lobstering.
the other
Okay?
question to ask, Jim, is it easy to transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy? It's not easy. I mean, it takes a lot of
No, it's
of
not
time
easy,
and
but you know
trial
what? I
and error.
don't think we can take a
and so,
knee-jerk reaction
you know.
and wrap our arms
Yeah.
around every project that comes down the pike without giving it due
Absolutely.
consideration.
Yeah, one thing that was always, said throughout the planning stages that I've heard is, that they're working with fishermen to determine the spot, to
Well,
determine different precautions and stuff like that. So
unfortunately.
that's what I've heard, and I was glad to hear.
Well,
I was
we've
glad to
all
hear.
heard it.
I was glad to
okay?
hear the opposite
I tell you
from other
what,
people.
if
so
you
it's great.
actually spent the time, Tyler,
Yeah.
and did just a little bit of research, you would have found out that the basically getting the
I've definitely
pulse
done
of
lots
the
of research.
fishing industry was a charter guy in Rhode Island, okay?
Well, that's unfortunate.
And it really was unfortunate, because a whole lot of things on the federal level.
Anyway, don't
have been
lambast me about this.
Have
I
been,
didn't-
have been
do with it.
decided, based on, unfortunately, on some really bad input without what typically would have been considered the due process here.
If I could, just go to something else I meant to ask. I'm not sure exactly what zoning changes may have happened since the LWRP, or if this board has any jurisdiction over any of those lands, since Jimmy's here, and the property I want to talk about is directly behind a piece that he's very familiar with in Montauk. The battery system for this proposed project, if I'm not mistaken, is slated to go on property owned by PS&G, LIPA, Lilco, whatever you want
Actually,
to call
no.
them.
Excuse me, this is the funky thing that you gotta ask yourself. The switching station is staying on PSE&G's land. PSE&G has no intention of allowing batteries to be placed on their property. The batteries have been doled out to a separate subcontractor that has a 20-year lease with PSE&G, and those batteries are being slated to be placed on private property, okay? I don't know about anything going on in Amagansett or East Hampton. I can only speak to Montauk. The properties in Montauk that these batteries are slated to go on is right in a flood zone, right in a floodplain, right in an area that is known to flood. And I was approached, because I own land in this area a while back, I was approached for this, and the only comment that I said to the guy, I said, listen, I'm familiar with batteries, I'm familiar with submarines, and I'm familiar with salt water. And one thing that batteries don't like, they don't like salt water. So can I ask why you would locate these freaking batteries in an area where it's not possible that they could be flooded? It's more like on a probable basis.
yeah.
And the answer was pretty simple. They said, well, because that's where the switching plant is. So the next question I asked is, well, did anybody talk to PSE&G about PSE&G that it might not be a good idea to put their switching plant in the floodplain?
Yeah.
And it doesn't appear that that discussion really had gone anywhere, and there are alternative sites.
There's some land in Montauk that's higher than that, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, there's a whole lot of land. I mean, the answers I was given, well, we're gonna raise all of this shit up, okay. Well, that's great, except
Yeah.
I've lived in Montauk my whole life. My shop is in this area. And yeah, my shop is raised up, but there's times where I gotta do the breaststroke to get to my shop.
Right.
It's,
A rumor surfaced today also that it really doesn't relate to this board, that those batteries may in fact be located at the Buell Lane facility. That's my question for the town board. Where's the public input as far
well,
as that goes?
the good thing here is,
Problem with
guys,
utilities.
There's environmental review.
They just do what
good
they want.
thing
Go
here
PSE&G
is-
subject to
no,
environmental review?
Yeah,
unfortunately,
it's the biggest issue with utilities.
unfortunately,
Happens to me all the time.
utilities and
Beautiful thing.
railroads are exempt from a lot of this. But you know what who's not exempt from it? Any of the private properties that are slated to have these batteries put on them, okay? So if there's an opportunity for the public to weigh in on this, that is where it is, because that permission is not gonna be granted on a state level. That permission is gonna be granted right here, right in this room. So there is an opportunity to weigh in on this and to affect it.
So at least you're on that too, Jim, so.
Well, it's literally in my
And it
backyard.
doesn't really, it may not relate directly to this board, but
Yeah.
it's gonna relate to every resident of East Hampton, and this board needs to take a position.
Okay, I think we need to mull it over a little.
I'd like to invite anybody from either side to come to a meeting and help educate us
Yeah,
on
please.
what's going on.
I enjoy having this discussion.
John?
John?
John Courtney was the trustee attorney. I just want to point out that under the Dongan patent, you were protecting the right of hunting, fishing, hawking, and fouling. If this has an impact on fishing, whether it's inshore waters, offshore waters, I think you have the right to say something, and you should say something. You have a duty. What the right answer is, that's for you to decide. But don't worry about the jurisdictional thing. We fought. New York State wanted us to have fishing licenses. We fought that and said we have the right to fish. And it's not just inshore, it's offshore as well. So just make sure that you don't let it go slip past you. Take a stand one way or the other.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
I lost him after hawking. I just got fixated on hawking.
Hello, Pat. My father fished on coccyx legs for about 45 years in Montauk. He came from Norway to go fishing here. And Tyler, although you may think that posting stuff on Facebook, people might not take the idea because you are a trustee, and they may take your opinion as the trustee board supports it.
I hope not, yeah.
Well, there are other things that you've posted on Facebook that have also been taken, and perhaps you should really, this board should study all the facts before they post stuff. Anything. There have been a few issues that you've
Absolutely.
posted on Facebook that I totally disagree with you.
Okay, well, I disagree with.
And
some
you
things,
have a right to your
and I
own
agree with people on
opinion.
things, so.
You have a right to your own opinion, but you have to be careful of what you put there because some
I am, Elaine, I am.
facts may
Trust me.
not be accurate. This board also, I believe, should take an opinion on this issue because it is very important to the fishermen. And I agree with John. You have the Donegan patent, and if Stuart were here, he would totally agree with him. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thanks, Elaine. Anybody else? All right, thank you. Let's move up. Bruce Harworth.
Bruce Horowitz, I'm here as the agent for the Phragmites Control Projects in Lily Pond, which I did a presentation on 2 weeks ago, and there was an issue that came up at that point having to do with whether we would go back to the clients and ask them about the issue of irrigation on the conservation easement. This is on the west side of the pond, which Trevor Darrell did do, and also looked at the language of the easement, and the easement language talks about the fact that there's no structure allowed, which would mean also no irrigation piping. But if you needed anything further clarified, I mean, the position from the clients is that there is no intent at all to have irrigation out there. There hasn't been in the past, and there's no intent to put it in the future.
Bruce, that's written into the easement that
The
exists?
easement language, I believe, just says no structure.
The language, the other language in that easement related to the amount of nitrogen that you're allowed to put down on that property, which obviously isn't being done right now, which
Right.
as a member of this board, I commend you guys on that. Is there any chance that you guys could perhaps sort of seal that and document that so that these properties do change hands, if this is something transferable and enforceable?
So that would mean, just for clarification, that would mean going back and dealing with the easement language, or that means submitting something to the trustees, which you're asking for?
Well, I think submit something to the trustees probably would accommodate this. My biggest concern is right now you've got an easement with the language that allows for 3 pounds of nitrogen, or excuse me, 4 pounds of nitrogen per 1,000 square foot a year, which is really excessive. It's great you don't have irrigation. You probably could never get to that number without killing whatever was there, but it would be certainly comforting to bring that number to no more than a pound.
The short answer is yes. The applicant is willing to do that. Yes, they have no interest in fertilizing or irrigating the area, but they do want to improve the view shed.
And how much shoreline of the pond is covered by the easement?
It's
A lot of it.
Yeah, it's almost all the west side. I don't know about the,
More than 50 feet.
I don't know about the north and south.
Width?
In other words, that's where it gets into one, I don't think the easement affects that, but that's all wetland, so it's not even an issue over there on both the north and the south. And then you get into the east side along Lily Pond Lane, and there is no easement over that portion, over the 200 Lily Pond Lane.
That's the private residence?
Yes.
On Lily Pond?
So I think it's one property.
It was the whole subdivision, which is all those 5 lots that came across the whole.
And the easternmost corner, is that a buildable lot, or is that a reserve area?
I mean, sort of the northeast section you're talking about?
Yeah.
That's not buildable, is it? It'd be
I don't know the
186,
map.
186 Lily?
I believe that's got the reserve going through it, isn't it? 86.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was part of the subdivision, was that preserve.
I was down there the other day, you certainly have a crop of Phragmites.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
Where do we stand with this? Is this
Well,
waiting for information, or is it?
well, they're, right now, you're coming back with exactly the information we were asking for.
And then
so-
where do we stand in terms of the overall application?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just waiting on this information.
And then
We'd like the support of your board, because majority of the Phragmites are on the trustee property. So we'd be submitting the application to the ZBA and the DEC with the letter of support.
Okay. Do you have?
Letter of
Bruce, do you
support
have
or permit?
plans at this point drawn up?
Yeah, I would think permit.
Yeah.
both.
There isn't
wanna
any
help them get
Phragmites on the upland portion. You mean over on that whole west side?
No, but
We can clarify.
you had mentioned at the last meeting that there were some plans to do a buffer for that along the west side.
No, well, there's no plan to do anything additional to what's already there under the conservation easement. And we would just be cleaning out the invasives and leaving what's there.
Bruce, so it's going to end up being individual applications to the trustees and a request for a letter of endorsement?
Yeah, there'd be two ways to do it, I guess. There are individual applications from 7 clients, from several individual properties to the trustees. If you decide the trustees are going to get, well, not if you decide, the trustees would be deciding the permit application for those 7. But then above and beyond that, when I go to the village and to the state, I'd like to have something that addressed, you know, an endorsement of the fact that you want this activity on the bottomlands as well.
No.
Well, allow it, I guess would be the correct wording, or?
Well, actually,
No, we don't need to show the DEC, no.
well,
No.
can I tell you what we can do is, if we've got the language hammered out here, we
We'll
can
issue a
issue a
permit.
permit, which is probably all that should.
Oh, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
Permitted.
yeah.
All right. Yeah, if we can get the language squared away, I'd love to, you know, we'd like to get this to a
We'll issue
vote.
7 permits, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7 permits.
But is this sort of standard something you would like done all over? Limit it from 4 pounds of
Well,
nitrogen to 1?
typically, this is something that you don't normally see in an easement where there's actually amounts of fertilizer that can
Was
down.
there
Yes, ma'am,
agricultural
no.
considerations?
I
at
think
the
there
time?
was at one
Yeah.
time here, yeah.
That would have been irrigation.
Well, I
But we
mean,
can go to the planning department and ask to have that put.
yeah, well, this is
Included
in
in
the
the code.
village.
That
This
was-
is in the
Oh,
village.
oh,
Okay,
that's
so,
right.
and it's a subdivision, it's
Fragmite
already been
heaven.
approved, okay? And really, all they're asking
Well, I don't
for
wanna
is to
hold them up.
remove Phragmites. And I think the discussion we just had kind of addresses that.
There is a, can I ask a question, Diane? I know that the issue you're getting at, and what we did in the past with, when you were a clerk, was to have a letter of endorsement from the trustees for the activities, which then included the bottomlands. And the reason I'm raising it is because if I just go to them with the permit, they're gonna, the state and the village are saying, well, you have a permit that's gonna allow, the trustees are allowing you to do this work on the shoreline, but we being those regulatory agencies, need some sort of proof that the trustees are supportive of it happening on their property. So I understand the issue about having a permit application to them, but
Right.
maybe a letter of endorsement that
Right.
says that you're supporting this activity to take place in Lily Pond. That would be adequate for my needs.
Well, I imagine within the language of the permit,
I think what you could
It's
do, I think what you
showing that
could
we're
do is
approving-
Okay.
build
Yeah.
into the language of the permit,
yeah.
the shoreline and adjacent trustee bottomland.
That would be fine.
Without a description of
Since
the
it's-
meets and bounds of that.
Since it's a
with-
vague description.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah,
Covers.
okay, yeah,
Works for me, thanks.
okay.
Any other questions on that?
Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Bruce, I'll call you tomorrow about the bottleneck.
So you're going to,
Wait a minute. Trevor's got-
do you want to address this tonight, or you want to?
You know, we could.
wanna hammer
if-
out the
if we're
language?
If we're all in agreement, it's just a matter of getting the language.
Yeah, I'd like an opportunity, like to, it's
see
7
the
of them at one time, so let's put
Yeah.
it all
If we could
in
get-
a
you know
row.
what, If we
Yeah.
could, just get the
Yeah,
permit, the language and stuff in, and
7 applications in, and looks like it's good then.
Thank you.
Steve Gauger.
Steve Gauger, and I just wanted to say thank you for getting the Rackabonica Harbor excavation done down there.
Which looks better.
Yeah, I figure it's going to be maybe 4 or 5 days of 35 knot east winds. It'll be filled right back in. So anyway, I just wanted to thank you, and I wanted to make sure that you were going to keep that excavation permit current, you know, don't let it expire. And I also think that the town should get a dredge.
Yeah.
And start working on some of these harbors, because you know, according to the expert there with the, Mr. Gobler there, or whatever his name is, he seems to know quite a bit about all that sediment that's on the bottom of harbors and creeks. And I just watched something on LTV the other night regarding Georgia Pond. And apparently, most of the nutrients, phosphorus and nitrogen, is settled to the bottom of that pond. And I'm sure it's the same in all the harbors. And,
Yeah, as far as sediment goes, the phosphorus is really, comes a lot out of the sediment,
Yeah,
a
well,
lot.
I know
Nitrogen,
that.
not as much.
It's a
The
big-
phosphorus is big for that,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a big issue. So I think that the town really, I mean, they're supposedly first in all this environmental stuff. They should buy a dredge, and they should see if they can clean up some of these harbors to where they're productive again, you know? I
Yeah,
mean,
one
I know
trouble
the
with-
hatchery does a good job, but it's nothing even comes close to matching what nature can produce if
Yeah.
the water quality is kept good enough, you know? And I'd also like to see if you could amend that dredging permit for the county so that they can dredge up to the ramp in Accabonac and maybe around that peninsula where the majority of the boats are, so that we have enough water to float the boats there at low tide.
I think the intention was actually for the county to come back in 2018 and dredge
Right.
back to the ramp. They didn't do it the last time, only because they got called out of there early.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I don't think they're gonna go beyond.
they had a lot of dredging to do, I understand that, but it's great that we have, you know, access to the bay now that we can get through the channel there, but if we can't get from the ramp to the channel, it doesn't matter how much dredging they do. You know, you're still not gonna be able to get out, and I think a lot more people would use that ramp, you know? The one at Napeag you can't use, because the tide runs so hard, and it's fast approaching down there where you're not even gonna be able to launch on the beach there, because that's all filled in also, where,
Thing is, as it gets worse, you're gonna have kids in the channel playing,
yeah,
dangerous.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of issues, but,
I'm worried about this summer.
but it's not just Accabonac Harbor, it's all the harbors, you know? The county came in, and they altered almost every harbor in East Hampton. And I know they did the same thing in Sag Harbor, because that's where I grew up. They did massive dredging in the 60s and 70s, and they totally screwed up all the natural systems that were there for tens of thousands of years. I don't know how long they were there, for thousands of years, and they worked fine, and the sediment got pulled out, just the way the natural system worked. And, I mean, if they're not gonna do an adequate job when they come down there, maybe you should sue them, you know? Take them to task. You know, that's what everybody does now. They sue if they wanna get something done. I mean, I don't know how it works, but you know what? Hey, that's the name of the game. You don't get what you want, you sue, right? I mean, either that or they should restore these harbors to the original entrances.
Yeah, I wish they had a bigger budget.
Well, I mean, I think that they should come in and do an adequate job. They shouldn't just come in and do a half-assed job like they did last time. Because I've been bugging certain trustees for almost 3 years to get some work done down at Accabonac. And I can tell you right now, if it blows 50 miles an hour for 24 hours down there, that inlet's gonna be filled up again. That's how fast it moves. It's not gonna take that much, you know? So, anyway, thanks again. At least I'll be able to get out of there without having to buy a new prop this spring. I'll be.
Thank you, Steve.
Will you keep us updated on how it's working?
I'm gonna go down and put some sticks in the bottom like I did last time.
Don't tell me that.
I'll let you know. Keep an eye on it for you.
It's a hard one to read. Is this you, Rana? Yeah? Yeah. Yep.
For short people, the thing down. Rona Klopman, I am here as a member of the Litter Committee and as someone who lives on the beach and knows how important our beaches are as a treasure that we have in this community. And I saw you had on your agenda Adopt a Beach,
Yeah.
which I had seen Francis talk about one night at the trustee meeting. And I said, what a good idea. And then I didn't see it again until I got the agenda tonight. So I would like to give you, I don't know who's in charge of it, for
Well, I
the
was coming up
trustees?
with, I was planning it out, and I presented it last meeting. It's the starting,
Well,
ideas for it.
today I just put something together.
Thanks.
We do have, most of the beaches are in Amagansett, which is where I live, and you've got a lot of civic associations down
Yeah.
there. And I thought Adopt a Beach was as good as Adopt a Road. To contact the civic associations, and maybe as trustees to have, I just was doodling this morning on my computer, and put together, I only have 5 copies, but I'd like to hand it out, with just something that the trustees could put together to give to community people, so they could ask people in the community to form groups, and then they could put their name on a little sign at walkways that they have adopted the beach, just like they do Adopt a Road. So, Francis, I thank you.
Okay.
So I just have 5 copies.
Why don't you give Lori one so she can copy them
Yeah.
for the rest of
You
us?
could
Yeah.
look at,
But it was really Tyler who came up with the idea, Rona.
Thanks, Diane.
well, I heard Francis say one night, why
Yeah.
don't we adopt a beach?
It all started last
And
fall.
I think you went along with it.
Yeah, when it all started last fall, when Dale Cullum had a lot of concerns about trash on the beaches, and he was pushing the town board to do something, and they got a trash attendant at Indian Wells for a little while. And it hit me. I was like, we need to do more for this because we're the stewards of these beaches, and hold them for the public and keep them clean. So I thought just doing beach cleanups, just saying, hey, let's do like 6 trustee beach cleanups a year. But then I realized that it'd be better to have like a public-private kind of partnership where you can reach out to different organizations like these civic groups are talking about, or businesses, and see if they want to kind of sponsor cleanups for these beaches. So that's how the idea evolved.
You're on the litter committee too, Tyler, right?
I've been to the meetings before, but I wasn't able to join because I'm on so many committees already.
Yeah, but it was brought up, so
Yeah, good.
I think if...
I talked to Kathleen Kirkwood a lot about it when I was planning.
Right. And I just put this together if I can work with you on it, and, because I know you're busy doing a lot of things.
That's cool.
Just as trustees, you can put it on your website. Let me just read what I put together. It's kind of just thrown out there, just for you to see. We're so excited that you will be leading Adopt a Beach event. Each year, Adopt a Beach volunteers like you make a huge difference for the health of East Hampton beaches. Caring for your local stretch of beach shoreline is a great way to get outdoors with friends, family, neighbors, and give back to the beaches that give so much. Hosting an Adopt a Beach event is easy. To guide you through the process, we've created a step-by-step checklist to help you host a successful event. If you have any questions, we're here to help. Visit the trustee website for further information. And then you just tell people what they need to bring and get them registered. And then you have groups that will go down and clean the beaches.
I would just comment that if we have particular homeowners associations willing to go down on the beach, the phrase "caring for your local stretch of beach" implies some privatization of said beach.
This was just a
And that's
suggestion,
something we're
yeah.
trying to stay away from.
Well, it was
So-
just a suggestion. You can change it any way you like.
I'm sure we will. Thank
it
you.
Yeah, I really
just,
appreciate it, Rona. Thank you for getting so involved in this right away. I'm still planning out the application for it, and I have to get Rick Whalen when he gets back to look at it for some legal advice.
Great.
So that's kind of where we're at with the evolving
Being a
program.
retired teacher, I'm used to doing these kind of things, so I'll help you with the, and the other thing, sitting and listening, Rick, I really loved that you said that in order to make a decision, you really need an educated, some educated information about the wind turbines.
I said it.
Brian said it.
All right, we'll give you credit too,
Thank
Brian.
you. I need it.
But I think it's a good idea that if you're going to come up with some decision, it should be based on education and
Certainly.
Data. So I'll look forward to hearing from the trustees about maybe James could work with you on it.
Thanks, Rona.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Rona.
Rona.
Is there anybody else who'd like to address the board?
Good evening, board members. Tim Taylor. I'm here tonight for citizens for access rights. And I would just like to say real quickly regarding the beach cleanup issue. There already is a lot. I think it's a great idea. I know Del Cullum does the Shoreline sweep at the beginning of the year. Our group, Citizens for Access Rights, personally cleans the stretch of Napeag twice a year. We always get a good turnout. There are some things to consider. One of the things to consider is parking in those areas. Napeag, we have a lot of people show up. The parking lots can't accommodate the number of people there to clean the beach, so we have to go to the board and get them to relieve the parking. And then the other thing to consider is the cost of getting rid of the waste. If we reached out to the town and they, ahead of time, were able to allow us to get rid of the rubbish basically for free at the dump, as long as we had their, like a little pass.
Yeah, that's the plan, basically, is to work with the
absolutely.
town to develop that.
It's just a couple of things,
Yeah.
you know, that while we were doing it, that, let's just clean the beach, sounds like a great idea. And then these little tiny obstacles, so to speak, came into play.
Well, thanks, Tim. Yeah, part of the idea of, dealing with the other existing beach cleanups and everything is obviously to embrace those and figure out where they are, where they're happening, so that we know, kind of have a registry. And I know the Recycling Litter Committee is putting together a registry of town beach cleanups on the town website. So we could probably have a link to that or a mirror of that on the trustee site, so people know where there are existing cleanups going on. And then whatever ones other organizations can plan, they can plan around the existing ones.
Sure, I think it's a great idea, and I think it'll take off. I think you'll be, very successful with it. The reason why I'm here tonight is regarding the discussion of the reissuance of beach driving permits. I know I've sent you, I think everybody got a letter that I had sent around. I was under the impression that there was a board meeting scheduled for March 5th that I guess got postponed, and that's why the letter went around without me showing up. I won't reiterate a whole lot of the questions or the points in my letter. If anybody has anything they'd like to discuss that's in the letter, I'd be certainly glad to. I guess the main question that a lot of people, so we've put this out to a lot of our constituents, our members and supporters, and everybody's had comments, questions, thoughts on it. And one of the questions that's being asked is, why this, why now? And I guess what I really have to say is, going forward, if this is something that the town and the town trustees feel they need to do, I think the best way, what should be considered, where one way to approach this that we feel would be the best way, is to issue one universal beach access permit. That permit shows that you're a resident of East Hampton. It goes on your car, it goes on your truck, doesn't matter what vehicle it goes on to. And that way you are getting rid of the potential fraud use of the beach parking permits, just as you are getting rid of the fraudulent use of the beach driving permits. As I mentioned in my letter, both permits are issued under the same circumstances. So there's just as much chance of fraud, if not more, because I believe I have something here, there's 135,000 beach parking stickers that are given out since they started giving them out, not renewing them. So to me, the chance of the misuse of a beach parking permit is much greater than a beach driving permit. So I would recommend a single beach access permit, possibly renewed every 3 to 5 years type of thing. That way there's no separation of user groups. That way you have a legit count on the number of people that are actually using the beaches, not just one aspect of beach use per se, but you'd have a pretty good idea of everybody, of the number of vehicles and people accessing the beach. And I guess that's pretty much it, other than, the points I made in the letter there. I don't know if anybody's got any questions, comments.
I still don't understand, I'm sorry, how it differs from the one that we have now, the big beach permit versus what you were proposing?
It would be similar, but it would just be good for parking and driving. So if I have a 4x4 truck,
Right.
I only need one of those stickers on my car. That sticker would allow me to park at Indian Wells, and it would also allow me to access the beach by vehicle.
So, but what would we accomplish, I mean, aside from what I think, the town hall would only have to generate one sticker.
Correct.
Versus two.
Correct.
Well, what if your car's
Yeah.
not four-wheel drive?
That's what I was gonna say. What if you still wanna have a
Well,
sticker
what
that-
difference does it matter?
Yeah. Like if you
It
want.
proves, the sticker proves that I'm a resident of East Hampton
Mm-hmm.
and that I have the right to access the beach. Regardless of how I access it, I have the right to access it. Via
Very good
parking,
distinction.
via vehicle, via walking, however you.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I guess my question
Right.
is if that's the case, then doesn't the town still have to issue a different kind of permit for people who only want a parking permit and not a driving permit?
No,
Why?
no.
Goes the other way,
Because
too,
if
same
you
permit.
put it on
So then you
on the
couldn't
Civic,
have, you're saying you'd only have one where you couldn't have one or the other, or just want, just,
one
you
to
know what I mean?
replace
What if you only
both.
want to drive and you don't want to park, or what if you only want to park and don't want to drive on the beach?
It would be
Your
good
prerogative.
for both.
Dual purpose.
It would be good.
Oh, I get that, it just seems,
So there's no need, right now, if I want to park at a beach, I have to go get a permit for that. If I want to fish and drive on the beach, or surf and drive on the beach, I have to go get a permit for that, versus just going getting one permit. That permit shows that I'm a resident of East Hampton, and that permit would then allow me to park and/or access the beach, in.
Tim, how does it
That'd be
become
great.
less fraudulent, though? You had mentioned that.
Well, because right now, you're not renewing the beach parking, sir. Comments have been made that if a car has a beach driving sticker on it, that car is sold to somebody else in a different town, let's say, that person then has the right to continue using that sticker on our beaches. That's not the case. The permits run with the license plate or the registration of the vehicle. Once the registration changes, once the license plate changes, that no longer matches the permit, that permit is invalid, and the permit holder or the new vehicle owner is obliged to get a new permit registered to the new car.
You know what happens, though, to the markers, excuse me.
I understand, so when
Yeah,
they
the
fade
sun-
after 2 years,
Yeah.
if it's on my truck, it's my duty or my obligation to go renew it. I look at it and I say, oh, you can't read my license plate on it anymore. I have to go get a new one.
All right.
So it's the same, but what you're talking about with the sticker being on the truck and that possibility exists for beach parking too.
yeah.
The same sticker, it's put in your window, it's got a permit number on it, and it's got a license plate number on it. The police officer checks the license plate number, checks the license plate number in the car. If they match, it's good. Same thing with the beach permit. Yet, the town only seems concerned about the beach driving permit. I don't understand why there's only concern for the beach driving permit and not the beach parking permit.
Yeah.
It feels to
Parking is at a
me,
premium.
it feels to me like there is an attempt to separate the user groups here. I also don't understand what the complaint is. Part of the court case that we just went through, part of the complaint in the court case was that the town did not have the right to issue those permits, and that the use that those permits was allowing was a nuisance. The judge, the court case, as we all know, basically found that to be a non-factor. You have the right to issue the permits, and the use that those permits allow is not a nuisance. So I don't understand where the drive is coming from. I understand all the questions, I understand all the aspects of it. I don't understand where the drive is coming from right now to do this with only one permit and not both permits. And especially while we have litigation pending. There's gonna be an appeal I don't think it's been.
Well, there hasn't yet, there hasn't been an appeal.
Well, my understanding.
You can
as of-
anticipate it, but there has not been an appeal.
Right, well, my understanding is the court case hasn't been officially signed and filed into the proper authorities. Once that happens, then the time for the appeal starts. The reason why that hasn't happened yet is because our judge who presided over that case. Retired at the end of the year, and the work that was left on his desk was doled out to different people. So there's been some delay in the signing of the judgment, but it will be signed and it will be appealed. So we are going to have further litigation on this down the road. The complaints about these permits have already been adjudicated in a court of law, found to be not a nuisance, the use not to be a nuisance. And the way they're issued and the actual issuance of them was deemed to be a non-fact.
Just to make it clear, though, this board did not initiate the permit change.
Understood.
It came, just for the listening public, this was from the town board so that they may have a better idea of how many people are using the beach.
And it's something they've wanted to do for years.
But what they're doing is they're only trying to find out one user group who uses the beach by combining the permits, by making one universal access permit, one resident beach access permit. They would get a better feel for the actual number of beach. You're never going to get it, right on the right. You're never going to get real accurate because you have people who walk up, drive up, taxis, so on and so forth. But to separate the two and only be worried about one doesn't really seem logical to me. The fraud, the same issues exist for both permits.
If you were looking to, not you, but if somebody was looking to minimize the number of people on the beach, realistically, by adding the folks who normally just park only because they don't have a four-wheel drive, let's say, that number now looks like it's quite a bit more, right, under your proposal, that are using the beach.
Correct.
So
I think the ambiguity works in our favor.
Yeah, I mean, we got, by the tax rolls, you know how many residents are in town.
Right, so let's say, I'm picking numbers out of the air, 30,000 people. Let's say there's no problem with the town issuing 30,000 dump permits. There's only an issue if 30,000 people go to the dump on the same day. So why does it matter the number of permits that are issued or falsely perceived to be valid if the use of those permits is not a nuisance?
Tim, I'm on board with you that there are two permits in town that are never renewed. It's the parking and it's the driving. And the requirements for both are the same, so there's no reason not to combine them. I'm just having a hard time understanding why this is such a big issue, to have to go out and get a permit. You get a permit every year for your dump. We're talking maybe 3 to 5 years on this one, just a color reset, to have an idea of what's really going on.
I think because what you start to do is you start to separate the user groups. Now, let's play this out.
You're not separating the users if you combine the permit.
Yeah,
I'm on board with that. I'm fine with that. I agree 100%.
I don't have a
they want a
problem.
handle on that.
Two things. If the timing was different, if there was no appeal, and we won this case, and we knew this beach was ours, if the town and the trustees decided to condemn the property, which I believe is still the proper way to go with this, if we knew we owned it, I don't think there'd be any real problem with the reissuance of the beach permits. But as the fact stands now, is we are still in litigation. We don't know what the future of that beach is. Why do we want to change something? Why do we want to give ammunition to somebody to say, let's play this out to the extent. There's 35,000 open beach driving permits out there. There's 35,000 people right now, cars that can go on the beach. What's the number that's going to make people uncomfortable? 10% of that renew?
Tim, the appeal process is very different than what they just went through.
Understood.
Okay? The appeal process is on the decision and what happened in that courtroom during that trial.
I know that there's
So
no...
they're not going to be reintroducing, right, John? I see you making faces.
Reverse it and send it back for a different judge, the appellate division could reverse and say we don't have enough evidence in this direction or that, and this could then be brought in, if it went back to the trial.
So again, the timing is off.
So it's,
The
the
timing is
concern
wrong.
we had,
That's what we.
I
told
have
them.
numbers from the town on the number of residential beach permits, residential driving permits, non-residential driving permits, non-residential beach permits, hotel and motel permits that are given out, and family permits are given out. I have these numbers for the last 5 years. So the town knows, they have a track of what they're giving out and what they're doing. Their system seems to be up to date, so if you would, if you want to call it that. Their system seems to be tracking numbers. I don't know why there is a need to justify a position that just because a sticker has number 35,000 on it, that number has to correlate to the number of open, valid beach permits. It doesn't.
I don't
It's
think
just,
it does, does it?
it doesn't,
Start
but
with
that's
one.
what a lot of people have been saying. Oh, look, that car's got beach sticker number 36,000 on it. So now,
No,
so
it's
there's
not a third of it,
36,000
but it's an
open permits
appearance.
on it.
It's an
The
appearance.
town has numbers.
Mhm.
What's gonna be a number that makes somebody
I
uncomfortable?
don't think anybody's looking for a particular number.
I
Yeah.
totally agree. I don't know that there is a nefarious desire or intent behind this board or this town board. But once we start logging these numbers, it's there for future boards to look at and to manipulate. I would like to see all user groups treated the same. I don't see a reason to separate out a beach driving permit from a beach parking permit when, like you said, the requirements for both are the same.
It would be a lot easier on the town clerk.
It would seem to save money, it would seem to save time, it would seem to save people trips. I don't have to make 2 trips, I can make 1. Preferably, it would be every 3 to 5 years, not every year. But again, a lot of this has to do with timing. Like why, I guess, why now? Is part of what a lot of people have been asking us. Well, wasn't this just settled? Well, those are some of the questions that.
I mean, I thought the timing was now because they were trying to take ammo away from the other side in the Net Peak Beach case and saying that, there aren't 35,000 open permits, let's really figure out how many
That's
it
what-
is.
but that's what
Say,
they
hey,
said.
maybe there's only,
That was not
maybe
brought
there's only
up.
12,000,
In
like a
the-
third, like Steve was saying.
In the decision, the number of permits issued was not really made a point.
Actually,
They
I mean-
tried to use it as an argument
I
against
mean,
us.
the
No,
town clerk made note of how many he had issued in like a
right.
5-year
and Fre-
period.
And Fred did say that large number was not representative of the
Right.
actual number of people that use the beach, because people sell their cars end up dying and going to Gershauer, et cetera, et cetera.
Right, I think a lot of it is false perception. I think a lot of people think that once that sticker is on that car, that sticker is good until that car can't drive anymore. And-
Right, so I thought the objective was to fix that false perception. That was what I was told as to why the town is doing this at this time,
Well,
you
have
know?
you talked to the
Well,
town
Because of
clerk?
that doesn't seem,
because
that doesn't
help
seem
us
like a
in the
legit
case.
reason.
Hey,
Education seems like.
Hey, Tim, to try and clarify your position here tonight, am I understanding you correct that you would like to see nothing done until the dust settles on this thing? And at that time, then make the changes of doing the dual permits? And it would make sense.
And would you support it at
Not a
that
bad
time?
idea.
Yeah, I would,
And I think
I
that's
don't know that I would,
what
so
we
I
voted
would,
last week, right.
yeah. To answer your question, yes. Once the dust settles, once there's a final ruling, once we hopefully condemn it and own it,
All right.
once the appeal comes down in our favor, yes, then I think we can start to talk about it. I still don't think at that point that I would be, or the majority of people would be in favor of the dual permit.
Okay, but Tim, right now, we've adopted that position, correct?
Yes,
I'm sorry, what position is that?
What position
Of
did we
of
adopt?
doing nothing with this at the moment.
till the dust
We were
settles.
waiting to see if they were
Until
going
this,
to
until
appeal.
the threat of this
Yeah.
appeal process is behind us.
So one of the reasons why I'm here tonight is that there seemed to be and I'm sure the board is aware of it, a little bit of miscommunication. The town board was waiting for input from the trustees were waiting for the town board to have their meeting, so on and so forth. I was not aware that this board had, and I don't know why I would be, but I was not aware that this board had advised or taken a position with the town board that we'd like to wait until
I did
the
email them
lawsuits.
on this.
These lawsuits could potentially be another like 3 years. I mean, I understand the filing has to take place in 9 months, and then there's back and forth. So my understanding is that the town board is proposing this for 2018.
We were told like 6 months.
Well, 6 months, that's when you have, so you have, I could be wrong, I'll let an attorney speak to this maybe, but my understanding from my conversation is once the decision is signed and filed with the county, then your clock starts to tick. You have 60 days to file your intent to appeal. Then you have like 6 or 9 months to file your first brief, your original summary, and then the other side gets to answer, and then the motions. So the process starts relatively soon, but the wheels of justice turn slowly, and it could drag out to be, much longer than that. And my understanding is that the proposal for this is to take place in, starting 2018.
I would ask Tim that the clerk reach out to the supervisor, explain to him our position, as Jim has just stated, that we will, in fact, wait until it gets resolved in the court, and we'll hear from the supervisor, and we'll go from there.
Well,
Yeah.
great. I mean, that's really all, all I can ask. And I just wanted to, come personally and,
Is that all right, Fran?
state our position.
Yeah.
I would also like you to consider the idea of a single permit versus a beach driving permit and a beach parking permit. I really think that as a resident of East Hampton, you have the right to use the beach, in a respectable, environmentally, safe manner. And, I think that's really what those permits are there for. I don't see a need to separate the permits.
It does sound like it would save people time and save the town clerk's office time and money, yeah.
Well, correct. And again, I mean, they do have numbers of what's issued every year. 2016, there were like approximately 7,200 beach parking permits issued, new ones. That's not, renewing, that's, that keeps piling on. So they do have the numbers. I just don't understand why. I guess I've explained myself as to, some of these questions, and I appreciate it. Appreciate your time tonight. If there's no other questions, I'm pretty much done.
Have you sent this to the supervisor's office?
Yeah, they got the exact same letter.
Have you heard back from them?
I have not. I do know at your last meeting, Councilman Van Scoyoc said that, once he read the letter, once the discussion became a little more prevalent, he started looking at beach stickers, and he started noticing how many stickers were faded or, not legible. And that's kind of making my point. Those stickers on those cars they're invalid, but they're not hurting anybody. So I got an old sticker on my car. That's not a valid beach driving sticker. We shouldn't be counting those old faded stickers as, oh, look, there's an active beach sticker. And I think combining the two would allow people to renew every 3 years, but it would allow, or it would prevent the fraudulent use of the beach parking. I believe there are many more. I don't have numbers to back this up. I have had discussions with some of the police enforcement personnel, and my understanding is that there are more tickets written for misuse, for fraudulent use of beach parking than there are of beach driving. I know the last couple of years, when a Marine Patrol officer will pull up on somebody and will check their beach permit, if it's not legible, they'll ask to see the ID, are you from town, this and that, and they were giving warnings. I can't read your license plate number on your beach sticker, it's time for you to go renew. And they've been doing that down there for the last couple of years. You know, getting the word out to people, educating the public that hey, once we can't read that anymore, you know, you gotta do something about it.
Oh, I always felt that was complaint-driven, by the way. You know, my experience is I don't see the Marine Patrol, you know, arbitrarily driving up and checking people's stickers.
They specifically.
That has not been my observation.
Right. At least down in
I spent a fair
Napeague.
amount of time at the beach.
Down at Napeague and down at Maidstone, on that little inlet spit there, and places where there have been high conflict.
Sure.
They do show up.
Complaint-driven, yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's, I guess it's overall complaint, not, yeah. I do agree, but I think that's, you know, with most things, I think it's,
Sure. All right.
and I think it's also incumbent on people using the beach. Hey, listen, if you see 3 or 4 cars driving on the beach, either recklessly or without permits or something, you know, we should notify the proper authorities, because, you know, that's why we do have those permitting processes in place. I guess that's it for me.
Okay, John, could I ask you to come up and explain what you were saying about the court case?
Yeah, as long as they have, the potential to appeal, the appellate court can do anything. They can affirm exactly what the lower court judge did, they can reverse it, they can send it back for additional evidence, isn't that correct? You know, and with that up in the air, taking a step, it's akin to have somebody getting hurt or something, you know, and then in a factory accident, and the fact that the owner of the factory fixed the machine afterwards, if that were introducible at a trial, it would discourage people from fixing. I don't know if I'm analogy-wise, whether I'm making sense or not, but you don't want to change the fact pattern in the middle of litigation. Once you do, things can go awry, they go amiss, you know? That's really the way I've always approached things. There's 2 other things, though. One, if the town wants an accurate count, I know Bill Taylor knows what an accurate count is from 20 years ago. You were out there every weekend counting the cars. Last year, the cars that are on the beach, not how many had permits, but actual cars that were there. Last year, they had a DEIS that was being done, and they were studying people on the beach. They had, there's a million different ways of doing that. And I don't think they've ever come up with anything more than 90 or 100 cars on the beach on the hottest of days, you know?
I think that was the number that was most relevant to the judge, was how many vehicles were on the beach.
But again, I don't think this is about how many are on the beach. I think it's a matter of who's on the beach.
Well, Timmy may differ with me on this, but this is the 21st century.
Mhm.
We have license plate technology, recognition that you drive on the thruway, and
Right.
if you don't pay the toll, you go down to Florida, they can get you there. Why can't they have license plate recognition here?
My thought is what we should do is they
But
should.
not on the beaches.
They should change the permits at some point in time, but they should do it because they have decent technology.
Yeah.
Something has got to have replaced the magic marker.
Well, the license plate,
I
the
mean,
license plate
you know,
is there at all
I mean,
times, the license plate
I
is
know we can get a
there.
man on the moon, we can,
Yeah, of course,
but if they came up with one visible permit,
the license plate.
But that had, you know.
If there was a RFID chip embedded
Or
in a sticker on the
any
vehicle,
sticker, right.
and it lists everything that you
You
have,
could-
that's
that's
all you
all right.
need.
However, whatever, we're on the
And
same
that
wavelength.
permit
Right.
would be ideally, they should change them, but they should change them with something better.
Yeah.
They should change them with something that,
That lasts, that as long as
Yeah.
you have the car,
if it
you
was,
have the permit.
if it was placed inside a non-tinted window, they don't fade for
They don't
3
fade
years.
that well.
The ones that are outside fade
And the
right
ones in the
away.
tinted windows fade too, and they peel and all of
Yeah.
that, because I've had their parking stickers come off on the inside.
But,
So,
I know one of the reasons we made the big stickers was so people could easily identify the vehicles at the time. But, you know, you can't drive past the car, you know, the police know, you know, the plate readers know everything that's going on.
exactly, and that's
I
why I'm
really-
saying, why can't
I
they
would-
have plate readers?
I would support changing the stickers and doing every 3 years if they could put some
Technology.
do some new technology that is going to stop this problem.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't, doesn't seem.
I think it's a simple solution as far as I'm concerned. It may cost the town a little bit of money in the beginning,
But they're only
but
gonna
it's
be
a lot
doing it for
less
one
than
permit.
issuing permits every couple of years over and over. It's just, you shoot the gun at the license plate and you say, oh, he's got a beach driving, parking, dump permit, all the rest of that.
I actually, I checked into what the town does list who has beach permits and stuff, but it's not in a form that can be transmitted to like patrol cars or.
Well, let them do that. How hard could it be? It's computer,
But if they put new,
I'm doing stuff on my phone.
the
You
one
know,
thing,
that they could be doing in the town clerk's office.
but the one thing that should happen with changing all the permits is to change it to something better.
Right.
And
I agree.
that would justify doing it. It would also give you a different reason for doing it than trying to hide how many beach vehicles there are.
Yeah.
But I still think the relevant facts we established were how many people are on the beach.
Exactly. And I think your testimony was great on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
But
Thanks, John.
I think long-term, though, long-term, if we're gonna be looking at all user groups, trying to find a number for who's using the beach is gonna be counterproductive. Because it's not gonna be beach vehicles, the next one's gonna be surfers. I don't like them surfers out there. There's too many of them. I don't like them jet ski people. There's too many of them. I don't like dog walkers, you know, because they leave stuff behind. I don't know. I don't really care who's on that beach and what they're using it for, as long as they're following the laws and like Tim said, they're
But it-
using it
even
appropriately.
It doesn't have.
They all
Specialized use, everybody that owns a vehicle has a right to park it.
Everybody who lives
They
in
have a
town
right
has a
to-
right to access it.
That's why one permit makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in that permit, if you wanted to say something along the lines of, you know, do not take two-wheel drive vehicles on the beach where you'll be fined, I mean, you could do that, you know, I mean,
I don't know, Billy Vorpal's tow charges might take care of that.
I do think John is correct, and I do agree that technology is something that could be used in this. It would just seem to me that there's going to be some money involved with that and some time. And again, my understanding was that this proposal was for the upcoming year. And the simplest solution to, you know, without a lot of money, and actually probably saving money, would be to combine them into one permit. I don't know of any other permit that's issued on a yearly basis that's free. Your clamming permit you pay for, your dump permit you pay for, your boat permit, I believe, your launching permit.
If you're a resident, yeah.
I think you pay for, boat slips annually pay for. So why, you know, why would we think that if we did this on an annual basis, that there wouldn't be cost incurred with this? Whereas if you combine the two, if you did it every 3 to 5 years, you may be able to keep it free. And I think free access to our beaches, we had a couple of people here tonight who spoke and said that most of the beaches are in Amagansett. That, you know, that is correct. People in Springs, we don't have a whole lot of ocean beaches, not a whole lot of parking spots, not a whole lot of parking lots. All the roads, all the road ends, everywhere heading south of Montauk Highway is pretty much no parking, no access over the dunes, no access over the walk. I believe there are a lot of roads that are mislabeled, private roads with no access along Napeag stretch that are falsely labeled and don't really reflect the facts on the ground. And this is just not about Napeag Beach. This is about all the beaches, access to all the beaches. Napeag is a hot spot because it's a litmus test for other future homeowners who are going to try to privatize the beach. So that's why, you know, that area of beach is spoken about specifically. But we're worried about access for all user groups.
Yeah.
We were disappointed when there was no parking put on Dolphin Lane. Doesn't make sense to us that you buy 24, 25 acres and have no parking. I don't
How
understand
did
that.
you guys, what are your thoughts about Landing Lane?
I haven't really been down there on the weekend to see how congested it is. I know that when people or when certain businesses are coming and going, it can be a little hectic down there. But I have never seen a problem
Yeah.
down there as far as like excessive cars and not being able to access it. That doesn't seem to be a spot where we get a lot of
Yeah, I don't
complaints.
remember it being overused.
Yeah, no, and especially as these guys were testifying earlier with the health of the harbor, not being so great, there's really no, winter flounder spawning, and there's a lot of the user groups aren't using the harbor like they used to. People aren't launching to go clamming in there. They're not doing, their stuff in there because of that. But I haven't seen an issue specifically with Landing Lane. But again, we were also against the hard structuring in Montauk 3-4 years ago when people, should have been rallying against it. They had a Montauk Firehouse meeting. There was a meeting with Jay Tansky at Gurney's Inn. And our position at that time was hard structures lead to no beach is no beach access. And, so we're not solely on this Napeag area. To us, it's a user group for the entire town.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Francis, do you have a letter with regards to his position?
Yeah, we all got.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good.
Hi, I'm Marjorie Courtney, and I want to say that you guys have really been behind protecting our beaches, which is, and all of the land that the trustees own. It's vital. Don't give away another inch. Do not let anybody encroach upon any more trustee land. It's going to go away, and we need it. And as far as the fighting for the beaches, and this number of stickers, I don't know why, if it's 10 stickers or 400 or 40,000, what difference does it make how many stickers are out there? When you go down to that beach, 4th of July weekend this year, 80 cars, I counted. I went every weekend, every day. We took photographs every single day this year. On the weekends, yes, we might have had 75, 80 cars, something like that. During the week, 10, 5, something like that. So I don't know what are you going to do with that number? When that number becomes somebody's breaking point, are we going to start saying, that's enough, we're not issuing anymore, that's it? I don't know. Is that what's going to happen? I think it doesn't make a hill of beans how many there are. But I do agree that the parking at the beaches is part of the problem of why we drive on the beach, because there are not enough places to park. So if you can put it together and you can fix it as one permit, and you can, as Jim and others are saying, make it so you can shoot it with a gun and it will say this is the resident and it's valid, then that's great. And I also think that you need to be more forceful with the town board. You people are the original town board. You're the real people. And I think you need to say, oh, well, maybe we'll, you know, I think you need to say, no, we're against this, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. You know, you came to ask our opinion. Our opinion is, when the dust settles, we'll talk about it later. And I'm sorry to be so, but that's my beach, and I want to go to my beach. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think when it comes to what Timmy was saying, there really is nowhere to go park, to go to the beach. And I think the town, if they want to alleviate a lot of the problems, they should have more opportunity for parking areas. You know, there's plenty of road ends where you can't, you know, you just come to a dead-end road. That's it. You might have enough room for a half a dozen cars. And meanwhile, to appease a handful of property owners, they put no parking in the whole neighborhood. So nobody has any access to the beach. So it's great that we preserve it, the beach, and, you know, keep it open for every user. But if you can't access it and you have nowhere to park, that leaves a few choice areas where everybody has to go because they have no other alternative if they want to use the beach. So, of course, it looks overcrowded, and on some occasions it probably is. But if they would open up more areas for parking, and some of the property owners that live down near the ocean, you know, they're just going to have to share, you know? Most of them could afford to move somewhere else if they wanted to. But they want they don't not only want the road, they want the beach, they want the ocean. They don't want to look out their window and see people enjoying themselves. That's really all I have to say, but that's what it's gotten to in this town. You know, I also noticed that a lot of the old woods roads and stuff like that, where you used to be able to, you know, drive down and picnic or pitch a tent, they're all closed off too. And a lot of it's been done by property landowners, you know, that are in the area, that don't want anybody in their little piece of privacy. You know, and it's done a lot to affect the overcrowding in just a few small areas that still have access for people. So the town board, maybe you should talk to them about opening up more areas. There's a lot more areas that could be opened up for public use so that everybody has a chance and not everybody's all funneled into one or two beaches. And you probably won't get as many complaints that way either. You know, big crowds always draw complaints. If everybody's usage was spread out a little more evenly over the town, it wouldn't have that much of an impact on just one area. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Okay. Thank you, everybody. All right. Okay.
I'm really
Then we're
sorry.
going to
It's a long night, and we'll let you get going. One of the things CFAR has started to do, and we think is a good idea, is exactly what is more access, is more places, and we are preparing a mailing that will show access points, points that are available, points that times when beaches are accessible to certain people. And in that way, we do hope that there is some other opportunities that people may not know about. There's the Beach Plum Park beach in front of that development. It's about 3,000 feet. It has a vehicle access, has no parking, but it has a vehicle access, 24 hours, no restrictions on it. There's the beach in front of the South Flora that was just purchased by the town that has a vehicle access that people can go to 24/7. There's the beach access off of Egypt Lane, open all year round during the summer. So there are other places, and we are in the process of preparing something to send out that maybe could be given out, also just to show, and also on the bay side. And not just beach driving, but, parking regulations, roads you can and can't park on. So I do think The answer is more, not less.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So let's move on to new business, all right? Accabonac Hog Creek, we have the McGovern bulkhead repair, 287 Kings Point Road, as-built survey received.
Yeah, I did go down there and check it out, and the bulkhead is complete. Did you take a look at all?
I did not. I wanted to get in and just look at the old survey versus the new survey.
Yeah, okay, I didn't get a chance to
Yeah.
do that, I just looked at it
Okay.
today, so.
Okay.
I
I would
have to go in the
just
office
say-
to get the old survey still.
Yeah, if you're satisfied with the on-site inspection.
Yeah, as
between-
far as,
Yeah, I would say.
the
to-
surveys are good.
If the surveys are good, would the board approve of Tyler and I giving the clerk an okay to tell the building inspector he can close out the permit,
Pending,
Good to me.
pending our
pending
review of
approval
that?
of the surveys,
Yeah,
Okay.
How does everybody feel?
It's fine.
or do you want us to
Good.
bring it back? It's up to you guys.
No, I don't.
Okay, so,
And they gave us photos,
So,
they gave us photos as well. I'll make a motion to approve this, close out this application pending our review of the as-built surveys and our confirmation to the clerk that those were, acceptable. Is that a reasonable motion?
yeah,
is there a second?
a second, okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's what we'll do. Rosacan, Bluff Restoration, request for a 3-day extension to trustee permit.
I also went and took a look over there just today, just before the meeting. That's why I was late. And I don't see how they could possibly get that work done before April 1st.
Right, and what I
Even
did.
with a 3-day extension.
Yeah,
It's supposed to expire tomorrow, the permit, which is a year old. They've had a year and they haven't done anything. I went there when they first applied, and I checked the property out personally. And I just went there today, and it looks exactly the same as it did a year
So
ago.
what exactly are they doing there? Set a bulkhead?
They're trying to, actually, they
Yeah.
don't have a bulkhead there. They just have a bluff that's been eroding, and they want to add some fill and do plantings, as
Have
far as I
they-
remember.
Have they started
They
it?
haven't started
No.
anything. There's still
No.
cinder blocks in the there's actually cinder blocks, old blocks in the dune, in the bluff, I mean. And
Well,
They were
Yeah.
there last year too. They haven't done
Yeah.
a single thing, so there's no way they can
Well,
get it done in
Yeah.
3 days.
I mean,
Yeah,
and the
the-
original application,
okay, but doesn't the window on the beach activity close?
Yes,
April first.
April 1st.
April
Yeah,
1st.
that's what I'm saying.
So there's no point in extending this.
Right.
No.
That's what I'm saying.
the original
see how they could-
application said it would take 2 to 3 weeks to complete, which is
Yeah.
more reasonable.
Okay, so
based
my
on Tyler's-
suggestion
yeah.
is put a,
They need to apply for a new permit.
Yeah, they're gonna have to do this
Yeah.
later on in the year, after
Yeah.
the winter flounder window ends.
Well, let me ask you this, what's the harm in saying if it's done by April 30th? What do we have?
April 1st.
April 1st, that we just accept it? What's the harm?
They might rush it.
3
I don't know.
days,
I don't
there
want-
is,
I don't
Yeah.
wanna see it get rushed and
if
not
it's
be done.
just a
It's
matter,
good.
if it's
No,
just a
it's-
matter of fill,
No, it's fill, and then it's the biodegradable matting, core log terracing, and American beach grass. So it's it's.
And they've gotta clean out that bluff
extensive
still. They're literally
project,
probably
yeah.
5 or 6 cinder blocks, just like
Yeah,
okay, well,
willy-nilly just sitting in the bluff.
can that company,
A lot
I
of
think
old-
it doesn't take 3 days to pick 5 or 6
can
cinder
that company
blocks
get it
up.
No,
done in
but
3 days?
there are multiple aspects of the project that have to be completed to get there.
Well, they can plant and
Really
everything
put me on the spot
afterwards.
here. I didn't know who, I didn't
No,
know,
I mean,
I didn't know who the
is
contract.
there manpower there to do that kind of project in 3 days?
What's the permit say? How many yards of material are we putting in?
275 cubic yards of material.
What's the distance to the access point?
That, I don't know. See if it's on here. Okay, looks like it's quite a ways. If this is, the Hog Creek, I'll pass this down Hog Creek Inlet, going down, it looks like it's quite a distance.
Good job.
Nice job, yeah.
Are these people,
Yeah,
are these people
I agree with
ready?
Francis. I think the only thing you can do is go ahead and give them the extension to April 1, but
It's not gonna happen, but
If
let's not
if
stop
it's not
them.
gonna happen, it's not gonna happen.
I'd be
It's
willing to make the
unfortunate.
motion.
Right.
I mean, I can see the
Anybody would
photos
like
if you
to
want.
second it?
I have 3 photos here if you want to see them. I don't have them printed out, but you can look on my phone if you'd like.
But if they're asking for the extension, they feel that they can get it done, who are we to say, no, you
Yep.
can't?
Yeah.
Right.
You
give them
know?
the extension to April 1. I'd like to make a motion.
If they didn't have the window on the other end, I would say just get a
And
new
it looks like
permit.
there's some vegetation in there now.
Yeah, there's
They
already
could
the
clean
old
that up
vegetation. I mean,
without digging it out and adding stuff.
Jim, really, look at this.
Yeah.
We
Doesn't
originally issued the
That's
permit.
because Diana's throwing stuff across the table.
Oh, I thought you wanted me to make a call.
Yeah, make a call.
Missing, can't find shit here. Oh, yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, but look how that's vegetated now, Jim. They're gonna cover up that vegetation with sand, only to then replant on top of it? Or are they gonna dig it out?
What I'm saying, there's a lot of work to
I
get up there.
don't think I would dig it out.
I mean, it's
think
a
I would
pretty good-looking
simply-
bluff right
I
now,
think
except for
well,
the debris in it.
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Sorry, man, I kind of see an ugly bluff. I mean, it would be nice if they had the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, well, let's see what they can do.
I just don't get how they didn't do it for
Yeah.
an entire year, and then they want to do it in 3 days.
Yeah, and
They're not
then,
gonna get it done in 3 days either, but it's not gonna.
and then what? Then they're gonna be stuck halfway through a project, and then they're gonna say, oh, we don't wanna wait to get a whole new permit, we don't need 2 weeks, we need to get it done now.
No, they're-
You know,
They're done with it.
They're restricted,
You
so,
know.
and once this is done, they have to come for a new permit.
You have a motion on the
period.
floor?
I did.
We do.
A second.
All in favor?
Wait. Pat made a motion.
Yeah, but that's been obliterated.
Okay.
Jim
You
made
made
it,
a
he
motion?
seconded it.
Why
Yeah.
did you do that, when you were sitting in the back of the room there?
Is it a motion to deny the,
No, Jim made a motion to
wait a
accept, to
minute.
give them the extension for 3 days.
you,
That's mine.
Oh,
Okay, Jim, you want a second?
I'll second it.
okay.
All in favor?
I wasn't trying to mug you there, Matt. I didn't hear you.
Opposed?
I'm gonna be opposed as well.
All right. you
1, 2, 3, 4,
How
5.
many
Many
is it?
people are
He
opposed.
left.
Either
That's
way,
pretty funny.
either way, it'll be the same outcome, I guess, so.
Okay.
They'll come to
I don't
apply
wanna
again,
see
I'm sure.
this.
Either it's gonna get done or it's not.
Terrible
It's-
job.
All right. Georgica Ponds, application of W. Weil Phragmite Control at 92 Georgica Close Road.
This is an interesting application. It seems to be a little more in-depth, a little more involved than most of the applications we've
Well,
looked at.
it is and it isn't. Okay, this is an application, the proposal is for the mechanical removal of Phragmites as opposed to hand digging. There's a lot of paperwork with this, there's a whole little analysis of sediment grain size. And all this was about was to demonstrate essentially that they're digging sand out and they're putting sand back. I did visit the site today. I didn't really feel the application was complete. There's some indigenous species that haven't been noted on the existing plan. There are some cattails there mixed with the Phragmites, which is going to complicate the removal in a couple spots. There is an issue in the plant list that they have there is, it's a little bit imbalanced. If you actually, everybody doesn't have a copy of this plan.
Probably just the committee.
Share this a little bit. The proposal is really to just put 5 foot of upland plantings and basically taking 15 foot of the excavated bottom and revegetating that, which is not totally accurate here. The plant list for the emergent vegetation is probably okay. The upland portion I discussed with the applicant's representative today is there's no woody vegetation in there. It's pretty much just herbaceous stuff like we've seen on a couple other projects. There is an existing bit of pool equipment that's located maybe 20 to 30 feet from the wetland edge that the applicant said they would see if they could perhaps relocate that. You know, it's legal in the sense, I'm assuming they have a CO on this, and it's pre-existing. You know, this is not a new property. This is a property, the house is, you know, has been there for a while.
Oh, wow.
And
Gonna
also,
extend that
what
far
they're
out while
gonna
they're
do is
working.
they're gonna go back, they're gonna amend their plan a little bit, change the plant list a little, and come back to us.
That's great.
with something.
Now, is there anything further in the upland buffer other than the 5-foot wide?
No, and that was,
reference?
and honestly, I didn't pick up that, the fact that it was only 5 feet today. And if you look at the site, it's not like they have lawn or anything there. There's some existing rigida pine, there's some existing tupelo. They're gonna try and work around those. It's really, they're just trying to remove the Phragmites. But in the area, you know, we found some iris versicolor, there's some blue flag iris, there's some bulrush there, there's some soft rush and stuff existing on the property. There's some Spartina, pectinata on the property that I asked them to kind of enlarge upon that.
Well, would hand cutting be a better choice in light of that?
You know, I'm not sure that it would be a better choice. It's an alternative method. You've got somebody here that's willing to do the excavation, willing to make back the soils in the area. They have access. They have access from the edge of the road to the area where they're working. It's really a matter of, it appears the client has the budget and the willpower. And that's many times is what the limiting factor is, why hand removal is being proposed a lot of times, is because the sticky soils. This is sandy material. It's not gonna be it'll be a pretty easy excavation, given the fact that it's sand, you know, that it is sand.
Do they have a contractor?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
Okay.
but,
So is Mr. Bennett planning to come in to speak with us about the
They are,
project?
they are. In fact, actually, I invited them here tonight, but given the fact that there's some changes that they're gonna need to make, they're still very much in the process with DEC and the other agencies, so it's not like we're holding them up.
Okay.
And I think we might want to think about this turbidity curtain out here in the pond. I mean, I could see maybe it's a good thing if you're using mechanical excavation, but that's a lot of pond area that you're limiting other user groups access to for
Okay,
how
but
much time?
Six
You know?
to 10 days,
Okay.
okay.
Seem like too much.
And is that going to be like a piling for each and
No,
every
no,
one of those
actu-
little circles?
No, that's the,
It's a buoy?
no, that's you ever see the turbidity curtains? It's a little like a gill net.
Okay.
Okay, so it's weighted on one side, it's floated on the other side, and instead of it being open mesh, it's kind of like a silt fence sort of thing. It's not,
So the circles, she's asking the circles on the map, those are floats?
I think they sort of marginally represent that. It's just what they chose as to a way of representing it.
Yeah, I just see that it comes out so far over here. I mean, I don't know what the standard is for those for the turbidity curtains?
Well,
Like
you know
how
what the
far
idea-
out from the
Close
project
over
they come
there.
Well,
out?
the idea is you want to place that turbidity curtain well out of harm's way, because if it's disturbed during the excavation process,
To get sediment out.
it defeats the purpose
Yeah.
of it. And it doesn't really impact the bottom, and
So is it because this area is particularly shallower that it comes further out or something?
it is pretty
know?
shallow.
Yeah.
It's pretty gently sloping over there. It doesn't
Just-
drop.
It seems like a great distance all along here, and then all of a sudden it just comes out really far from the land.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't see that as any sort of a concern there, because it's not a representation of construction
Right,
by
right.
any means.
Okay. Well,
And the application does pretty much describe it. They're just looking to excavate the Phragmites. And I think at a glance, it appeared that this was all Phragmites. And there is 2 spots over there that you can clearly see the, cattails are there. So
yeah,
they,
I'm just a little concerned about putting material back in there. Take the Phragmites out, why, we're gonna put the buffer around, why not just leave it as water, open?
Well, that would,
Because that's what I start to look like, where's the deed line, where's the tie line,
Well,
where's the
well,
ownership line?
well,
Where's this
Diane-
stuff going?
well, Diane, that would potentially enlarge the pond, Okay, but this is a typical requirement with a DEC application. If you're excavating material out for the purpose of, let's say, we're gonna call this rehabilitating a wetland, we're not typically gonna accept simply removal, okay? If you're removing 500 cubic yards of basically shoreline sediments, the DEC is expecting a replacement of approximately 500 cubic yards
Technically, in the
of
long
material.
run, are we always like so sure that the DEC knows what they're doing?
No, but
You know?
Diane, this is sort of the.
This is sort of like these Phragmites grow property. They grow property.
Well, but
We're taking them out.
Yeah, but there's, I've been involved in projects like this, and there's nothing nefarious here. It's, it's,
Right, no,
we
it's not
take,
any one
we
given-
take
no,
5
maybe
apples
not.
out of the basket, and we're being asked to put 5 clean apples, free of worms, back into the basket.
Right, but if we're
okay?
putting it back in the basket, so it's overflowing where it never was in the first place when you got
Yeah,
it.
the basket was empty
No?
before.
But
they
this
said
is
no.
why they're
So
saying,
that's
you know.
why I'm just I just want to know for sure.
I
I'm
agree
not-
that it would be
you
interesting,
know.
it'd be interesting to look at aerials of the past and see if this Phragmites patch has grown considerably over time, and if at some
I
point.
think it's been probably it's been pretty healthy and somewhat static. Okay, and what you have is you got a homeowner who's looking at all of the other applications that we have entertained and actually permitted. Okay? And what I was encouraged about here is if this was, let's say, clay-type bottom, and it would really be difficult to manage your spoil and stuff. This is not. It's pretty sandy bottom. The applicant did demonstrate that in some of the supporting documents here. Could it be done by hand? Yeah, it could be done by hand, but it could also be done by machine, and it's not like we haven't issued permits for that. Now, getting to what we're issuing permits on, our jurisdiction ends at the water's edge. But I would hope that this board continues to adopt as a policy that if a generous wetland buffer is not part of the proposal, and that could be going on the upland portions, that if it's not serving the overall health of the pond, our position would be the Phragmites is okay where it is. So, just kind of speak to some of your concerns, Diane. I think this is a project that can be done well, can be done surgically, and can result in a more healthy and more vibrant native plant community. And you've got, there are some carrots here, relocating the existing pool equipment,
The survey of this property.
getting buffer where there presently is not.
It's in there. This was the site plan.
I'm sorry if I missed this,
Okay.
but the sand that's gonna get removed is gonna be the same sand that's gonna go back there after the operation? Or they're gonna truck in new sand, so where's the new fill gonna come from?
It would have to be compatible with the sediment sizes and stuff are
Site
spelled
survey.
out here. So it would have to be clean sand,
Yeah.
essentially like you would have from East Coast
There's a little
lines
page
or
up there.
something like
So
that.
then where does the sand go that's taken out during the,
It's gonna go to a landfill site. Now, question on a property like this, some of the sediments have been excavated out of Georgia and Hook Pond have tested quite positive for a variety of things. I would be surprised if these sediments tested positive. I think these, I'm guessing, would come back clean, but I certainly would hope as part of our thing that they would, and I'm assuming the DEC is gonna do the same thing, that they would ask that excavation be tested. And if it is contaminated material, that it go to an appropriate facility.
I think I understand what you're saying is, since it's mostly sandy, it's gonna be hard for it to have absorbed, heavy metals
Well,
and stuff
two
like that.
things.
If it was
two
more
things.
clay, it'd probably have more chance
it's
of having.
really, it's both the
having
sandy
contaminants.
it's both the sandy nature of the soils, but also the use that the upland portions of the site were. This is adjacent existing woodland and stuff, so the likelihood of finding the same sort of contaminants that you would find on an agricultural site are probably unlikely.
Jim, did you see a survey when you were with Mr. Bennett today? I don't think the package has
It just has that.
the site drawings.
It just has the site drawings, and
Okay.
certainly we are gonna ask for an updated one
Great.
on this, simply because of, just like you said, Diane.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Just like we're seeing a removal of sand more in this one than we do in most Phragmites applications.
Well, we haven't seen that. This board hasn't entertained the one. Diane, you were part of the board that approved Mallow, which was an identical project to this several years ago. We have two projects right now that have been sitting on our agenda floating around. One is My Wife Really Likes It, and the other is Gallo that has a similar methodology, but some similar problems with plant material.
It might be time for the applicants to come back in and speak with us about
Well, you know
this.
what they want to do is, we discussed that today when they visited the site, and the issue really was that, you know, they were going to obviously need to make some changes to the application.
So we'll table this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on. We have a request for mooring at Alewife Pond.
Well, I spoke with the applicant, and I think there was a miscommunication. He didn't explain himself very well. He'd like to get a mooring permit for outside of Alewife Pond, where there are some other moorings, and I referred him to the town.
Okay, so it's done.
So I think he's clear on that, and he has my number if he needs me.
Okay, great. Move on to old business. Trustee policies and procedures for shoreline fencing. I don't believe we've gone anywhere with that at the moment. Same with Middle Highway. Georgica Pond dredging. Okay. We got a draft permit for the two projects in Georgica, I believe. Anybody have any comments about it?
Yeah,
I do.
I think we all do.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I've been through this fairly thoroughly, and there's some very good things in this permit. It's for the right area, it's for the right projects. There are like more special conditions on this thing than I've ever seen on a permit ever. Like 32 of them. And they want comments by the end of the month. You know,
Gives you 3 days.
I have some really specific, serious trouble with number 9, that the ocean cut must be contained on trustee land. Number 10, number 11, number 12, reference to closing the cut. The committee must close the cut if it does not close naturally in 14 days.
They allow a 7-day extension on that.
Yeah, but, and that 50% of the dredge material must be placed down drift. You know, I think a lot of this stuff infringes upon, you know, trustee traditions and rights. And
Well, I mean, just logistically, there's no way you're gonna open that, you could start it on trustee property, but depending upon any the weather, wind, you can't
Well, I
control
think
where it goes.
Typically, though, am I wrong, that it tends, when it's been excavated, it tends to stay on trustee property? It's really the issue with Georgia Association has been something that's been more of an issue when it breaches on its own.
That's where that's been the worst situation.
yeah, the breaching on its own is the worst situation.
Favored the west.
Well, then 2008,
You should actually close it up.
the rainers.
Yeah. This says
Yeah,
if
they-
it drifts
they
off
cut it
trustee
too far
property,
too.
we have to shut it and fill it back
Yeah,
in, which
well-
is kind of,
The cost to fill that thing back in?
must
I mean,
close
I could see
pond.
something if it moves 200 feet, or if it endangers property, we should be permitted to take action, but not required to take action.
Well,
I think, I mean, they want, the way this was, the timing of this thing and everything, we got it a week before the windows closed. I mean, nothing's gonna happen down the pond at all now until September 30th, from what I see here, so we have a lot of time to answer this, but I really think we should express to the DEC our exceptions to,
And specifically, it's mentioned twice, the Georgia Pond Water Quality Restoration Action Plan.
yeah.
Where is it? Who's drafted it?
It's-
What's it say?
It's not in place.
It's not in place. Well, how can it be referenced in a permit then? That's just
Well,
ridiculous.
what they're
well,
saying,
it gives
what
us,
they
Yeah.
it gives us
said,
till 2018 to actually have that.
it says to
Produce that
finish
document.
and adopt.
And if we don't, what are they gonna do? Pull the permit?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, what does that mean?
yes, actually, if you get a little bit farther down here, let's see. Let's see, there's usually boilerplate that says,
Yeah, if you don't, I mean, the boilerplate usually says if you don't follow all the special conditions that the permit is.
yeah,
Jail.
yeah,
good.
yeah, there's some language
Stay
in
there
here.
until-
When you get down to the
There,
details,
number 5 in the permit modifications, suspensions, revocations by the department. Failure by the permittee to comply with any of the terms, conditions of the permit. That's pretty much usually where they get you on stuff like that.
Well, then I'd say you don't put it in the permit until it's in place. It's
Well,
ridiculous.
the permit says it has to be done by 2018. And when you look at what they're requiring,
Yeah,
it's,
to see what they're requiring in there?
yeah, they want to, they basically want what we already have.
Yeah, hey, Diane, before you, freak out, some of this stuff is actually already in place.
It's already
Okay, and
there.
I know what you're bristling at,
Yeah.
being told to do something.
No, a detailed
That you've already
articulation
done.
of the environmental, physical, and other parameters considered by the Board of Trustees when making the decision to open the pond ocean cut. Is that only in consideration of when we're gonna open it for excavation inside this little quality restoration action plan? Or is that like any time we make, any other action we take on that
It kind of
pond
implies that it's a
falls under our
Traditional cuts
management?
were not supposed to be
Yeah.
part of this permit
They're not
whatsoever.
supposed to.
And they are.
And they are.
And
Yeah.
they are, and they've
They're-
even
they're-
put, put conditions
Sorry, Tom,
on
what
the
did you
third.
look
No,
at?
that's,
There's-
it's not good, it's okay.
Yeah.
Wanna go-
The third cut can only
Landward?
happen outside
anymore?
the
Is
that really-
windows and
Which pretty much,
I mean, don't,
Yeah.
means in the winter.
yeah,
Yeah.
which kind of flies exactly
Face of what we're
contrary
trying
to
to
when
get rid
you
of now.
probably
When you have the
would be
real
trying-
algae
would
bloom.
really
and-
need to do
Yeah, when
it.
you really need to do it,
Yeah.
you can't do
that's
it.
what I'm
Yeah.
afraid of here, yeah.
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 You know,
This is, a-
Basically, like Bill said, just getting 3 days to
Yeah.
meet as a board and respond to this, that's just not fair, that's not right.
but, I mean, nothing is gonna happen on this permit till September, just because of the timeframes.
It doesn't.
But,
Right, but if we don't comment, are they gonna pass it, like, okay, the draft is good?
no, well, I mean, we don't have, we don't have to dredge. We don't have to open the cut. We don't really have to do anything. I mean,
Think back
Well,
to
they've
that
offered to me,
go.
if we have issues with
Yeah.
it. So we could probably just give them a blanket statement that we have numerous issues and would like to meet.
yeah.
Yeah,
and-
okay.
And if we could
Yeah.
enumerate, my
Yeah.
thought is, we're meeting with Larry in the town tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Is if we enumerate the issues that we have here, we can respond to this draft, okay? And as far as the time frame, realistically, it's a little like that permit that we just had with the sand. We're not doing anything with this right away. But what would be nice to do is to be able to let that pond before the season and not find ourselves going to war before we even
Well,
get
it's-
started
Well,
here.
that's, yeah,
Shall we say it?
What?
right.
If ever there was a test case, this would be it.
Well, it could
You know, yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a case to go for trustee authority, the facts line up in this one real nice. It's our property, we have a 275-year tradition of doing this stuff. Not that we want to do that, but
my suggestion would be to outline our issues, with the permit as it is, give the DEC an opportunity to respond to our concerns.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't work out, well, then there's another path we can always choose to take here.
Correct.
Yeah.
And what is the worst they can do?
Well, Pat, being that we put your name on the permit, remember that meeting you come to?
No, I mean, it's gonna be
I
litigated.
think it's all coming down on you.
It's okay. So I could stay in jail until like
Yeah.
September
Yeah.
30th, till the window
Other-
closes.
The other thing, though, I do want to point out is that in the new permit, it's allowing us to dredge 15,000
1,000
cubic
years
yards per event.
Per event.
Right, but it's not specifying, is that per event for just the Georgia Pond, or if that
We're allowed
includes
another, we're allowed the other, what's the other, 900 yards? on the
950?
other?
So if you could take 1,900 from the cove, and we had 12, now it's at 15, I mean, we're getting another 1,100 cubic yards of sand out of the gut, that big
No,
shoal.
I think that-
That's not
I think
where we
that
started. We were
The
looking for
one
like
going into the
20,
cove is a separate deal.
but it should be spelled out in here then.
Yeah, well, this is a draft permit. I
Okay.
mean, but
I'm a stickler for details.
So. That's good. But it's gonna be a meeting tomorrow,
Okay.
and I think we should
When you learn
get
what the last number is.
correspondence to,
Yes.
we should get correspondence to
hard
the
lesson.
DEC prior to the end of the month.
Well, I think after the meeting tomorrow, it would be nice to get the town boards
Yeah.
and natural resources position in here. We've actually been paying an expediter
Yeah.
to deal with this project. I would hope that they may be able to shed some light on how we are where we are. And let's see if the DEC, because, their cover letter wasn't terrible. The cover letter that came with this was, basically said, please, get back to us.
I said, I'm sorry you got this so
Yeah,
The
late.
one we got 2 weeks ago, home on my kitchen.
Only got it today.
This came.
No, I have
today.
one that
Okay.
we got from the same man 2 weeks ago. I mentioned it, and it was written up in the Star. Right, Chris? All right, a couple of weeks ago. Was
For where?
like, don't count on us for anything, DEC.
Oh, the new set of rules.
That was a different thing, yeah.
Yeah, their process.
There was like a whole attitude change.
Yeah, their permit process, yeah.
The permit process is changing, but
And can I just ask, when you guys meet tomorrow, if you can find out if the survey that was prepared to prepare this GEI map thing is available for our files? I'd like to have that in the files. And I do notice also the shoreline and tidal areas drawn are from an aerial. Maybe we could look at that, because we got into some serious trouble once with a diagram it's not accurate. It's maybe here, put your spoil here, and the spoil got placed in the wrong spot, and then the DEC came back and charged that private owner with having material where it didn't belong. Big issue, big issue. We don't want to have that happen again. So it should be very clear where the spoil is going and if it's going to be on private property or not.
You wouldn't think it'd be this difficult.
heard about it.
Only did-
Yeah.
Once you get burned.
Honestly.
Yeah.
It's a shame that it is.
Yeah, we own the pond, we've done the openings for almost 300 years, so yeah.
Okay.
In general.
Getting dragged through this one.
Well, it appears the temporary placement site is on private property, so,
It does.
yeah.
It does, but it's based on aerials.
Conversations
So,
prior to this have been somewhat different.
that's not showing any private property
A lot of
lines.
stuff got added at the last minute. So we'll get it,
The little teeny tiny maps are very deceiving.
Okay, so we'll report back to the board
Yeah, after this is
after
over.
tomorrow's meeting.
Okay.
and we should be, we definitely should, do we need a motion to, or anything to reply? Just send emails around?
That's fine.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Yeah.
reply, we're gonna object to,
Multiple,
multiple.
Yeah, absolutely.
Multiple
That's
things.
fine.
okay.
No, get back to us.
All right, move on to committee reports. Acabonic dredging excavation of the inlet and culvert results.
I got a couple of pictures here. Now, it's, this is before and after. It's done. We took 3,000 yards of sand out, had it moved down the beach. I think the bill for the whole job came to around $41,000. The 3 property owners have agreed to send us checks for a total of $20,000, broken down into 3.
Have they been invoiced?
They were sent, yeah, they've been invoiced.
Yes, and we've been notified that the check's in the mail.
And the work on the culvert was started, and then the weather conditions, they stopped, and he was gonna start again today. I was down there this morning, there was equipment on the job, but I haven't been down there.
I spoke to Patrick Friday, and yeah, and today was the day they thought they'd get in there and clean it out.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So that, we still have 4 more, that should all be done. He has, he's done it 10 times in the past, I guess, so
3 anyway.
Yeah.
You wanna jump
At
in?
10, but yeah, we wish.
It's great. Good job done.
And what's he doing with this, with what he
It's gonna be
digs
placed
out
on
of
the south side of it's gonna be placed on those rocks.
on the rocks
south
by the
of
guy
the-
with the exposed septic system?
It's not going
It's
on.
not going down that far.
Put it under that house.
No, you can't do that.
It's the town property,
No, I'm
the
kidding.
town property
That has any
ends.
more reason to stay there.
No, I understand that, but anyway, hey, does anybody know what the status of that property is at this
Status of
point?
the property, I think the Department of Health has come and looked at it and might be in the process of taking some action. Okay.
Is there still septic? I looked at it, but I don't
It keeps,
remember the
it keeps,
septic.
it keeps being exposed every time there's a little wind. It's,
Still works, right?
it's not my house.
Assume it does, but you know,
Wanna try
in the
that?
definition of the trustee beach at this point,
It's expanded.
the trustee beach is kind of on the other side, is on the landward side of the house at this point.
Yeah,
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
sounds like a Van Devere problem.
No,
We hope not.
unfortunately, this would actually be more of our problem.
Those pilings are at the most 12 foot, and I'll bet they're 11 and a half above grade. There's probably this much piling underneath the sand.
Wow.
So the question is, which direction is the house gonna go?
Well, Patrick apparently is in contract with them to do some work there, so. So I guess they're gonna do something, I don't know what. I don't know.
Okay,
They need our
moving
permit to
along.
do anything.
I know I called Scott Wilson about that house about a year ago. He said it's on the list.
I think
Well,
we
the
may
town's
have
purchase
done
it.
with
bought
the
buying
septic
two
system.
down there now.
But I heard that the owner didn't want to sell it to the town.
Oh. Hey, that may change.
All right.
Better do it soon before they have it.
D. Franny, 107 Gerard Drive, request from building inspectors, sent certified letter.
Yeah, so Franny and Lenahan were both sent letters requesting their as-built surveys. So,
We're waiting.
yeah, so we're
Says
waiting.
Franny and Lenahan both?
Yep, waiting for as-built surveys, and then they'll be inspected after we get the surveys.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Francis,
Beaches,
real quick on
Yeah.
on Hog Creek, Acquonic. I just wanted to let everyone know that the public notices were placed in the Star for Hog Creek, Oyster Garden, and the expansion of 3 Mile Harbor on March 15th.
Good.
Great.
Okay.
beaches, adopt the beach program, I think we touched on
Pretty much
that.
covered that. I'm just gonna, when Rick gets back, he's gonna take a look at the application, see what we need on there.
Okay.
And then I'll start delineating beaches and finding home, associations. And if the beaches committee wants to help with that, then
Yeah, well, also keep in mind, and I said
Anybody?
this, I
Rhoda?
said this to you before, the trustees have been part of Dell's project. He has a name for it, doesn't he?
yeah, the shoreline sweep.
Shoreline sweep. So, we are involved, and I think what you're doing is a great, great idea, and I'm behind it.
Yeah, I've talked to Dell about it, he's,
Yeah.
and we're both on the same page of kind of coordinating those
Right.
things together.
Yeah. So it's really an added.
This isn't meant to replace any existing beach cleanups.
No, I understand that, but for us, because we are committed and have helped out in the past, and I imagine we'll continue to do that, where all the garbage is gathered in bags, we throw it in the trustee truck, we take it to the dump. We've helped out with gloves and bags in the past, so
Yeah.
I imagine we'll continue to do that, which will just kind of enhance what you're doing.
Yeah. I expect to, I expect to ask the board that we can approve to buy, bags, gloves,
Okay.
sticks like that, once this thing gets going, so we can provide those for some of the cleanups. But that's something we can discuss too.
We do that occasionally in the winter, the kids and I. And what's really neat
Yeah.
is you give one kid a crab net. Remember when we could use crab nets? The other has more of a close net for the littler things.
Yeah.
And they each have their own section. You go, the guy with the crab net picks up the big stuff. The guy with the fine net picks up the little stuff and pile it in. It's fun. It works
One way to
very
do it,
well.
yeah. There's
So
a million
somebody
ways to clean a
gets
beach.
wet and cold, then it's
Yeah.
the end of that.
Yeah. Well, things to think about, we have to figure out how many cleanups we want sponsors to do per year.
Yeah.
And if more of them would be in the summer than in the winter, that kind of thing.
Okay, but we're gonna move right along here.
That's great. So that's it for that.
Francis, are we gonna?
Yes, next one we have,
The ZBA.
I don't know.
yeah, the ZBA hearing for 261 Marine Boulevard. Committee member was supposed to go down and take a look at it. Didn't get down there?
Get down there, I can tomorrow, though.
Okay. That's done. Okay, Georgica, One Association Road. You said earlier there's nothing happened there?
Nothing's happening there. I did call Brian Frank. I haven't heard back from him, just to see where this is with the town. But I had intended today to just put some notes together so that Maury could send a letter out to these guys on what
Okay.
we felt we had problems with.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go to a funeral today, so I didn't get back into town until too late to deal with that.
Okay.
Ackerman has made no, from what I can tell, no headway on their own. Gallo, we have exactly the same situation as we have with One Association Road, and it's the same agent. Lily Pond Wetland Restoration, we already did.
Did Jim speak with you about MMR and the walkway?
He did, and, but he was gonna get back to us, and I haven't heard.
Thought he was
I
gonna
think
join
that-
us tonight.
Yeah, I thought he was too, but I don't think he's gotten
Not ready.
that all squared away.
Okay.
Number 3 there, Perella, Brian and I met with the applicant's contractor today and walked through the project with them, and we had decided that he really needed to expand upon the proposal a little bit more than he has. He's going to do that, make the modifications, and then come back to us. And I think at that point, it's going to be ready for us to vote on.
Okay, great. All right, Harbor Management.
Harbor Management, we are looking forward to our derelict duck blind cleanup project. I met with Chief Michaels, and we have his blessing to use the skiff boats, either both dates on the 8th and 22nd, if we need them. And he's gonna help us coordinate pickup of the debris at coordinated sites. On the 8th, I think we're looking to do Napeag and Scoy Pond, and on the 22nd, Northwest and Accabonac. So that's our plan. Jim, did you have any further information on?
Well, I have some stuff, one thing on our next meeting, I had asked some of the baymen that use Napeag's launching ramp to come to the meeting and basically give their input on the launching ramp before we move forward with that.
So they're going to the Harbor Management meeting?
I had
Okay.
invited them to the harbor
That'll
management.
be on April 5th,
Yeah.
Wednesday evening at the
Yeah,
trustee
and
office.
I'm gonna call and remind a couple of people
Great.
that we spoke with. related to harbor management, related to Napeag, is I had talked about a couple months back replacing that one derelict duck blind with a little, like, roosting area for the ospreys. Something that hopefully will look a little bit attractive and not a visual hazard.
Okay.
And this is kind of what I had in mind. The Montauk Boy Scout troop has kindly volunteered to do that project. And what we were hoping to do is actually implement this for the 8th, for the day of the cleanup.
Nice.
And actually, the derelict duck blind that this is going to replace, I went down there the other day and I didn't see it, so I think it may have shifted its location in the dreens there, so maybe we don't have to remove it, it may be gone, but we're looking to replace this, replace that.
It's a nice looking thing.
Yeah, it came out good.
Well, it's not done yet.
Yeah.
You know, if it,
And will this be visible from one of the roadways near Napeag Harbor?
well, you know what my goal there was to try and say, because last year what was kind of nice is, yes, it was a piece of crap out in the wetland, but it was a piece of crap out in the wetland that the ospreys were using literally every day, all day. They were hanging out on it. What my hope is, and it was very visible from Napeag Meadow Road, what I was looking to do was basically replace that derelict duck blind a little bit closer to the road, so it's not right in one of the dreens.
Yeah.
Right.
But have it very visible from the road, so that, you know, if you want to observe the ospreys, you'd basically be able to pull your car over
Nice.
and hang out and watch them.
I know a lot of people do that by the Pond of the Pines
Yeah.
with the nest there. That's great.
I like it.
You know, it
Good
doesn't
design.
sit,
Yeah.
this isn't gonna set real high, it's only gonna be maybe 4.5 feet or so off of the,
Great.
off of the meadow. And what we'll do is we'll use a couple of locust posts, and, you know, we were gonna do this out of cedar.
And are they that low now?
Which?
4.5 feet? Is that, do they build nests that close
No,
to the
no, no,
ground?
this is not a nesting site. This is not intended to be a nesting.
Oh, I thought they were
This is
gonna
only a place for
build a
them to
nest
sort of
over there.
hang out and eat their fish at. And it's in close proximity to a couple of the nesting sites, so when they
Oh.
do get into the nesting and fledging stages, they can shuttle
Babies
food
have a-
back to
That's
the.
gonna be
Flights
interesting to watch.
Well, if it works,
see what happens.
hopefully this doesn't end up just becoming something that's sitting out there that people are going,
With the fox,
whose bright idea was this?
sitting on the top of it.
No, no,
Well, if it doesn't
Tried to
work,
set
then
it
we
up.
take it out.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta give it a year or two, let them
Yeah.
get used to
Yeah.
it, yeah.
So this is a Scout project.
This is Scout Project.
And the
Good deal.
launching ramp next week, Jeff should have his sketches that are destined to go to the DEC and the results of the hydraulic study. That is the wave action and as it pertains to erosion.
Is that?
I'm looking at him too. I
What?
don't know.
No, I didn't. I don't recall that being a part of the original contract. I'm glad to hear that he's doing it.
Oh,
It's
the
not-
hydraulics. No, it's not.
that's not part of the original contract. When we had our
Okay.
last meeting with him, big question I think we have, and a big complaint that has been made by some of the users out there is, guys, you're gonna replace this launching ramp. It's been subject to erosion, it's been subject to the tidal areas and stuff before, and that's one of the reasons we're inviting some of the baymen to the harbor management committee. Is, you know what, if we can integrate some of their ideas and get a better product here, or at the very least, have somebody that actually knows what they're looking at weigh in on it, and that's what we had asked Jeff to do, and it was a
Okay.
nominal, it was, looked like it was gonna be a nominal expense.
We agreed to pay for it.
Okay.
Glad you brought that up, Francis, and you really smoothed it out nice, Jim.
I thought you were there.
I was, oh, no, he wasn't
No, I
there.
wasn't there.
I thought you were there.
How is that?
You were there.
Yeah, he agreed, he liked
Okay.
it.
Yeah, Bill was cool.
There you go.
Thanks a lot, Bill. Leaving us in the trenches, taking grenades here.
You handled this
All right.
very well.
All right, let's move on. 3 Mile Harbor, application of Lobel Dashevsky to to legalize existing staircase at 42 Hedges Bank Drive. Clarification from LPS.
It's been established that, it was built not in the original location, and that, I believe Lori, under my direction, said that, the homeowner has to contact the town to file the permit and have the inspector come out and make sure it was done correctly, so I think that's where we're at, right?
Yeah, I mean, you guys prove it?
No,
I would wait for the town,
to say that it's at least legally built.
yes, that it's built correctly.
Correctly built,
Mhm.
but they should then simultaneously submit an application.
They did, yeah, they did,
They
they
did.
did.
For a while.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've had it for a while now.
Okay.
So, but we did tell them they had to contact the town and make sure that it was, send the building inspector out to make sure it's safe.
Safe, and they gotta get a permit for it too.
Yeah.
They have to get a
Natural
permit with the
resources.
town, right.
Yeah.
And our permit is basically pending the approval of the building inspector.
Okay. On to administrative. Payment of the bills. M. DeSuno and Sons Incorporated for opening of Georgica Pond, $750. Vistrian Materials for dredging excavation of Acabonic Inlet, $40,000.
That's 41,000.
Yeah, it's-
41,100.
Right.
I make a motion, we pay the bills?
Of which,
Let's
There's
keep
more.
Of which $20,000 is to be reimbursed from the property owners for transportation and loading costs. Staples, $87.94.
$23.99, right?
That's two,
And
that's
63.
87
Oh, I'm
is the
sorry.
total.
He added them up again.
87.
That's all I have here is the totals.
I'm sorry,
No, I'm
Tyler, I
sorry.
didn't,
Okay.
I kept my old.
Intuit QuickBooks, $219.95 for an upgrade.
Yep.
GEI, $158.40. Georgica Pond dredging consultant fees.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Who is the consultant at Georgia Pond?
GEI.
GI.
Yeah, I think I'm okay with all of them except GEI.
Looks pretty cheap
know
to
we were
me.
It is pretty cheap, but we were gonna just,
Who are they? I
give
don't
them
remember.
$25,000,
Big-
like one lump sum to the town for the Georgia Pond.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I know,
was one of the-
we didn't give them that much. I
We
don't
agreed.
Okay, you know
remember
what
how
I
much we
think?
paid them.
Hey, Lori, would it be possible, because we have a meeting tomorrow, would it be possible to pull out what GI has been paid and to get a copy of the original, agreement with them? Because we are at the bottom of this, where we're gonna have to settle this out and
I
close
think,
it out.
I think there's more, I think we only made a partial payment.
We
This is
did.
the one Kim was chasing us
Yeah.
around for, but never gave us a number.
Okay,
And it wasn't 25,000. We may have given them 15-ish.
okay. Well, being that somebody's gonna be shaking a stand for money, let's find out what what our original agreement was.
Excuse me. All right, minutes.
Agree with that, Jim?
okay.
December 12th, 2016.
I have just, first, at the very start, those who are present, we need to add my name to those who are present.
You sure you were here?
I was,
Okay.
because I'm quoted later on. Yes, okay. Then I would like to just ask the board if we could clarify paragraph 10 on page 3, along with paragraph 13. Paragraph 10, if we could say we're talking about 101 LPL LLC, that dune restoration is at 211 Lily Pond Lane, not the 81 Briar Patch Road.
I thought it was at 101.
101,
It was
101 is the
101.
property, 101 LPL, but I believe they're located at 211 Lily Pond Lane. MMR Real Estate Holdings, which is paragraph 13, they are located at 81 Briar Patch Road. That was my understanding, looking at other minutes and stuff like that. So that's just the two
At
properties.
least for MMR, that's what it says on our agenda tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, MMR is 81.
Okay, so then, just then in paragraph 10, The name of the LPL property and their address should best be changed to the appropriate name and address.
What was that address?
I think it's 211 Lily
I'll
Pond Lane.
look on the
It's
page.
too bad, because
It is 211,
Okay,
yeah.
Good catch.
okay.
I know, because I made the mistake of going to 111, which I think was Mr. Hirschfield. It's all right,
Those awkward moments.
211.
Those are the only things that are substantial within those minutes that I would recommend.
Right?
Okay, great.
Anybody else?
Make a motion that they be approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, December 19th?
Already right here on the 19th.
I don't.
I do.
Please.
Wait a minute, huh. I'm confused. I have different sets of minutes here.
We have the 12th and the 19th. We have the
12th and the 19th, and I have January 9th.
Well, you have too many.
We have
Okay.
too many.
All right. All right, so the 19th?
Diane
December 19th,
is here.
those who are present is myself and also Tim Bach. He was present, so he needs to be moved up into the present box.
Okay.
Must be a conspiracy. Two in a row, I don't understand.
Yeah. And that's it. Nothing else was substantial.
Okay. Make a motion to approve the 19th?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
I sworn some of those meetings in December that a lot of people weren't here because of the holidays. I know we adjusted them because, I'm sorry, I'm not saying, trying to say that you're
Right, no.
trying to say you were here when you weren't, but.
Yeah, only because I know I'm quoted in here, and I'm remembering
All
the
right.
discussions. And then so is Tim, so I'm assuming he had to be there. He
Yeah.
made a motion or something.
Yep.
Okay, that's fair. You can always-
Thank you, Diane.
Maybe check if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, then there's something else in the minutes that needs to be amended.
You were here.
Good enough. Good to go.
Okay.
Make a motion to pass them?
Yeah,
I'll make a motion to pass the minutes of December 19th.
we did.
Yeah, it's already done. Rick,
What happened?
Brian.
I was in the bathroom?
All
Wake
right.
up, Tyler. Here.
I'm passing on report of the clerk this meeting. Correspondence, Peconic Estuary Program, Natural Resources Subcommittee meeting. To be held. I don't know.
Sure we have an email on it.
What is it?
Natural Resources Subcommittee meeting. The
Peconic
Peconic Estuary Program is developing the 2017 Peconic Estuary Program Habitat Restoration Plan, an update to the 2009 Habitat Restoration Plan. We held a kickoff meeting back in January and have since been collecting input on habitat restoration priorities from the East End municipalities and other partners. We would like to convene a meeting with the Natural Resources Subcommittee at the end of April or beginning of May to review the habitat priority submissions and to start developing specific goals and objectives for the 2017 Habitat Restoration Plan. If you would like to participate in the meeting, please fill out the following poll and indicate your availability. Okay?
Is that something that the horseshoe crabs would fit into?
Perhaps.
Perhaps.
They do a lot of plant restoration too. I mean, there's an opportunity there to work with them on restoration projects that we have in mind that we might want help or funding assistance with. So it's something to keep in mind. I mean, I'd rather go if I'm available at the time.
Motion to vote?
Thanks.
I'll second it.
Aye.
All in favor? Okay. Dismissed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
everyone.